Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the UGA Sports Postgame Overreaction Show. This is the Georgia versus Georgia Tech special. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, joined alongside, as always, Jason Budd of UGAsports.com. Radi Nabulsi, publisher of UGAsports.com, will be on in just a little bit with us as he's heading home from Coach Donnan's house. If you see I'm in a different area here, I am in Ohio, so just making do in a spare bedroom and hope that we can make this. And man, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to break down this last game of the year, Jason, especially with the spread being 24.5. Georgia covers not 31-3. They do cover and get the win, but after that, that's about all. So, guys, before we get started real quick, we want to know where you're watching us from. So put it into the comments. We'll shout you out like we always do. And if you have any questions, make sure you get those in as well. Last thing, Jason, if they want to join the show, the link's in the description. You can voice your opinion, and we can hear from you there. Jason, as we do every show, my man, I need your initial thoughts on this crazy game.
Yeah, just for Georgia, it's good to get that one out of their system. It was from a spectator's perspective, just a bad game. Just a bad game all around. I guess if you were rooting for Tech, because even if you were rooting for Tech, you never really got the sense that they were actually going to win. I think the 8 points at the end of the game was a lot closer than the actual game itself. But Georgia should have never had them in a position to be a one-score game. That said, look, we're so far into the season. The only thing that matters at this point is, one, that Georgia's as healthy as possible against Alabama. I don't think this is the post-game overreaction show. We love to go over things and nitpick everything. I don't know. Look, you got hours. You got a few hours on this show, right? I think I can sum up the show right now. There's really nothing that matters except for next week in Atlanta against Alabama. What happened on the field tonight? Forget about it. It's a rivalry game. It's one of those things that happens. Alabama-Auburn happened today. I mean, if Auburn actually rushed the passer, it's possible Alabama loses against a 5-6 Auburn team. Washington needed a game-winning field goal with time expiring to beat 5-6 Washington State. These things happen. And the fact that it was a one-score game, but it's just one of those things. It's Georgia Tech. The one thing I'll say, the one thing I will react to is that I've been making fun of Georgia Tech for about 20 years now, or however long it's been, right?
Right.
I don't know, man. I mean, they're not going to build the program up to the level of Georgia or Alabama, but they got a coach who knows what he's doing. And I fully believe that. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the jokes about Georgia Tech that I have so enjoyed, whether it was the end of Paul Johnson or really throughout Paul Johnson or, the clown that they had previously. You
don't even mention his name anymore.
Jeff Collins. Dude, no, honestly, I'd forgotten his Jeff Collins. I'd already forgotten his stupid name. And so, they got a guy. I think Brent Key knows what he's doing. I really like their offensive line scheme. And so, but if you're Georgia, you just throw it away. You throw this game away. You move on to Alabama. They'll get up for Alabama. We've seen them get up for the big time opponents this year. I'm not worried about that whatsoever.
One guy who we can count on. If we can't count on the Dogs, we can count on James Carraway to be here for us as the first caller. James, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Man, I'm doing all right. How are your dogs?
I mean, what are we going to take from this game? Much. It was the first time since Auburn that we lost the turnover battle and time of possession. That's kind of like the slog that you get into. If we're turning the ball over, we're not able to lean on guys with as many plays. So, I mean, I think the team is what it is, doesn't change. Alabama's going to run on us, but it comes down to third down, as it has all year. Who's going to be the better team on third down? I think we have the best third down team. And then the positive, I mean, we've seen Arian. I've been talking a lot about Arian, and we went from Kirby giving him kudos for punt team to getting a carry, and now some passes. So who knows? You save them, and Carson hits him on a deep shot when you need him the most next week.
I'm loving the overreactions. Reed Patriot says Georgia needs a new DC. I'm loving it. I don't think they're that far off. I don't think they need a new defensive coordinator there, Reed Patriot, but or Red Patriot. Sorry, the screen. Normally I'm working with like 3 screens. I'm confined right now, so doing the best I can. We're working through it. The real Reed. This guy's name's Reed. Reed Crane says, I can't believe our defense gave up an 80-yard touchdown drive in the fourth quarter. What happened, James? What was this game? From a fan's perspective, seemed like Georgia had it, and I mean we're really kind of chugging along to cover town, if you will. They were getting close to covering this spread, and then you had the tipped interception in the end zone, and then things kind of just trickled from there. It spiraled out of control. Now there's some good things that happened, right? And we'll touch on those. Kendall Milton looked like a boss tonight. Then there's some head scratchers, right? Georgia gets down there. They rush Kendall down the field, and then they get into goal to go. They give it to Dejon twice. They get stopped. Then they try to throw a screen pass to Muse with Arian Smith blocking, where it's almost a tipped interception. So there were some head scratchers tonight. What do you take from this, though, James, in an overall aspect? Is this just one of those? I think Jason said it, best. You kind of just close the book on this one and you go to next week, but you've got to learn something, right? Your defense was, I don't want to say gassed at times, but there were some outside runs there that, kudos to Buster Faulkner and Georgia Tech that they followed up what Auburn and Missouri were able to do. They watched film.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, watching as a fan, it's just they did what every team that's had success on Georgia did, and it's attack that outside edge. The big thing was that there were so many cutback lanes. That was the one thing that, kind of bothered me. Offensively, I agree. You close the book. I mean, Carson, he wasn't great, but, 2 touchdowns called back, a couple missed.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We're going to see Muse catching screen passes next week. I mean, you had a lot of guys filling in. We're going to have the full squad next week. So, I mean, Carson threw a 90-mile-per-hour screen pass, 5 yards away to a guy who's probably not going to be in the field in the fourth quarter of SEC championship.
We got a donation here. First one of the night. We appreciate it. KC says this is for Milton. Give him all the helmet stickers. He's going to definitely get a lot of them. We appreciate it, KC. That money goes towards not actually buying helmet stickers, but buying us new mics and things like that. But I love that we've turned it into helmet stickers here. A lot of folks, Jason, talking about the referees in the comments.
I don't know. I don't.
No.
I mean, no. I mean, the referees didn't decide. Didn't make this an 8-point game for Georgia.
I am going to say, Jason, I think that the refs had Tech plus 24.5.
Yeah. I don't put anything past the referee when it comes to
because the call on Van Pran there was a little crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, I was watching football all day. I mean, that's just the state of refereeing in general. The game's so fast for these guys, and I don't know what can be done when it comes to some of these bang calls. But you just have to deal with some of the bad calls that come. I mean, but when you look at the overall body of the game, I mean, this was more of Georgia's doing than anything. And I think, Alabama wants to play a specific style of, offense running the football. You just wonder, I mean, Georgia Tech being able to get to the edge and create those cutback lanes by moving the line, left, right, pulling guards, pulling tackles, doing all these unique things that you saw, like you mentioned, you saw Missouri and Auburn do it, but not to that effect. I mean, I was just really impressed. It just seemed like Georgia's defense did not have a grasp for what Georgia Tech's run game was going to do on any particular play. And they're used to, stopping the run up the middle. And they haven't been fast to the edges like in previous years, but they weren't. I mean, this was their worst performance and since the Auburn game. I mean, just really, really bad at times. again, you hope in a way that Alabama doesn't look at this Georgia Tech game and go, let's recreate that. Because, Alabama's got dudes and they want to play their style. And hopefully for Georgia's sake, they stick to their style. I actually like Georgia's chances. They start running. If they start this, I don't know. You'd have to install a lot, I think, in a given week. But what Georgia Tech did was, I was really impressed. But at the same time, Georgia should have. I felt like Georgia has the guys, Georgia has the guys to be able to fit those runs a little better than they did today.
Here's something I think we all can agree on, James. This is from Boo12. The commercials were ridiculous, way too many. There was a stretch there in the fourth quarter. I think we saw 3 plays, and we had like 13 minutes of commercials. You want to talk about stopping momentum of a game, whether it was for Georgia or for Georgia Tech. Whoever had momentum at that point, and there was, times where Tech did have a little bit of momentum. Commercials tonight were unbelievable. When was the last time Georgia played in that 7:30 ABC spot?
It's been a long time. I forget. Georgia put out in their release when they announced the game. I can't remember the time, but it's been a long time since they've been on ABC. And I didn't realize that if you're on ABC, you get
you just
that many more commercials. I mean, I know exactly what you were talking about, because I'm sitting there going like, what in the world? I just feel like I just watched 8 commercials back to back.
Yeah, and it was. I think there were some injuries there, James, and I think we're all thinking of the same ones where Bullard went out, but it was just one play, 3 minutes of commercials, one play, 3 minutes of commercials, one play, 3 minutes. I mean, it was to a point where I was like, man, I'm tired. I've got to do a show for 2 hours after this. Like, can we please get this done?
It's like Florida State. I don't know. That game ended way earlier. I think it might have started 30 minutes earlier.
It started at 7, but it ended.
It started way earlier. Yeah, it never.
Right.
And with 2 teams that were running the ball a lot, you wouldn't expect it to drag out the way that it did.
Somebody said, "Who's the cheesiest?" I'm the cheesiest coach. Yeah, that's what I like. If I'm
every commercial break, I started repeating that.
It's all I can remember from this game. People are going to ask me in a week from now, what do you remember the most from the game? Like the Cheez-It commercial, dude. That's all I got. James, before we let you go, I've got a couple other folks waiting here. Any worry after watching that Alabama-Auburn game? So I'll give you my take real quick. I watched that Alabama-Auburn game, and obviously rushing 2 guys on the final play is you probably deserve to lose at that point. But there were times where I was like, man, I think Georgia runs away with this like 17 points. 7, like this game's not going to be close. And then we get to tonight's game, and I'm sure Bama fans then looked at it and they were like, we might win this thing by 7 or 10 points. Where are you standing right now with that big game obviously looming?
The same. I mean, I still think Georgia wins by, 10, 11 points. They're going to be able to run the ball, but there's going to be times where we're going to stop the run on 1st and 10. And if you put Milroe in that must-throw situation on 3rd down, I think we have a good shot, because I don't see them stopping Carson with a full arsenal. So their defense is going to have to be perfect, and then you're putting a lot of stress on a quarterback that it's either chuck it deep or tucking it. It just depends on, are we tackling when he is tucking it?
That's the $1 million question, my friend. There were some missed tackles tonight and folks keep saying, Jason, right? And then that Milroe, if Milroe can get out there and do this against Georgia, well, there's a lot of ifs in this world. I will say Milroe is probably the most talented quarterback Georgia's faced all season, and he has the legs. He's just a different type of beast, and Georgia has a problem with that. We saw it tonight with Haynes King. Haynes King is nowhere near the athlete. I mean, I say that they brought up some weird stat on the broadcast, which they were able to limit down to him and Jaden Daniels. They had to do like 2,600 passing yards, 500 rushing yards, X amount of touchdowns, X amount of rushing touchdowns, and they limited it down. So they got him and Jaden Daniels, which whatever, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a crazy.
Yeah, they had to get 4 stats a certain amount to get him and Jaden Daniels in the same conversation, but they did it. So the problem is though, Jaden Milroe can run a little bit. Milroe can run.
You know what's weird, and I've been thinking about this for the past week. The last two times Georgia, I shouldn't say 2 times. The 2 times they faced Alabama before Bryce Young got there, so it would have been the Hurts and the Tua years. When they played Hurts, Milroe reminds me more of Hurts, obviously, than Tua. And preparing for that game, Georgia had a great game plan, and they contained Hurts, and obviously they got backup quarterbacked by Tua in the national championship. And then the reverse happened the year after in the SEC championship, where Hurts comes in and that he ended up running all over him. I do like Kirby Schumann and Muschamp preparing, getting the guys up and ready for this game. I'm worried a little bit about the speed at linebacker compared to previous years, but in terms of a game plan, in terms of limiting the big plays, I do like Georgia's coaching coming into this game. I really do, and I think a lot of it has to do with being able to prepare for that certain type of quarterback. And if we're being honest, Milroe is not the passer that Hurts is either, and so if Milroe ends up killing you, it's going to be as a runner. And I think Georgia's defense, I mean, it's better than Auburn's defense. And I think they can do enough to keep those passing plays in check and also not allow Milroe to just run all over them the way he has against some of the not as good competition in the conference that he really was able to stand out against.
Well, James, how's the baby doing? We need a baby update before we let you go.
She's good. She's with grandma. We came out to visit the parents for Thanksgiving, so I've been like hands off. Grandparents have been taking care of baby.
Good man. Good man. Well, I love the picture behind you there. It's a great little – that's a nice piece.
Yeah, so, we're all Bulldogs fans. So this room is like all Bulldogs out and everything. So it goes deep with the family.
Well, I'm sure we will see you rain or shine next week, James, against those pesky or what do you even call them? Roll Tide, elephants.
Roll Tide.
Yeah, Roll Tide Elephant Crimson.
38-27.
38-27. I love it. Right. I love it. See you, James. We'll see you next week, brother.
Take care.
All right, let's bring on see if we got any comments here. We'll get Brandon on here in just a second. Ducati, he's always around. He says we're going to be prepared next week. You got to hope so. Jeremy Neighbors, my man, says got to find a way to force Milroe into bad decisions he made against Texas. I like that. Somebody said Bama's receiver pushed off. Yeah, that's tough to call there at the end of that game. Hell of a game. A lot of stuff happening in the SEC tonight, Jason. You've got Stoops headed over to Texas A&M. You've got Jeff Lebby getting hired by Mississippi State. If you guys look, perfect time right now. I'm going to do a quick plug, Jason, for Rivals and UGA Sports. Right now, Black Friday deal, 75% off. Get your first year for $25. We've got promo codes all over Twitter. Go check those out. This would be the perfect time, Jason, to go check out that Texas A&M forum because I did. And boy,
I haven't yet. What's the reaction so far?
Oh my God. They're talking about, taking their eyes out with spoons.
Really?
I mean, they are not having fun with the Mark Stoops to Texas A&M at all.
I think after dealing with Jimbo and going with the flashy hire and thinking that this was going to, put aside the fact that Jameis made Jimbo's career. Otherwise, he's nothing without Jameis Winston. Mark Stoops has been the model of I like the hire. Not to get off track here. I do. I think he is just but at the same time, I like Mark Stoops as a coach. You wonder though. I like what he did at Kentucky. He took Kentucky higher than it really has been since Bear Bryant was there before, or was Bear? I don't know. Was Bear Bryant at Kentucky? I feel like he was at Kentucky. I don't know. From the 40s or whatever it was. He's taking them as high as Kentucky football can go. But you wonder if a guy at that level can make that next step given the resources. You've seen it. You've seen I think Rich Rodriguez is the best example, taking West Virginia as high as it could ever go and then just flaming out at Michigan the way he did in dramatic fashion. So I'll be interested. I like Mark Stoops as a coach. I think he's a good coach.
We'll definitely get into it later on.
Yeah.
Topher says Milroy, it's not a real person, is the
Hey,
best.
autocorrect. No. Come on.
Hey,
Don't be the grammar police.
All right, that's on me. Is the best QB UGA has faced all season, and then he starts laughing. I think he's going to be the best quarterback they faced all season. That's just me. I
guess Brady Cook, maybe.
I could tell you 14 out of 14 SEC coaches would take Jalen Milroe over Brady Cook to play in this SEC championship game. So I don't know. Brandon, you taking Milroe or are you taking Brady Cook?
I'm taking Milroy over Brady Cook. All the way. Yeah. I mean, Milroe, he is dangerous. I mean, sometimes he's imperfect. He's not Bryce Young, but God, the way that guy runs, man, he's going to get rushing yards on us, like no doubt.
Yeah.
But I mean, tonight though, hey, it's another successful day in Sanford West. Do you guys remember last time Georgia Tech played at night? I mean, that was kind of weird to me.
It's been a long time, man. Yeah. It's been a long time. And we were just talking about even Georgia playing on that ABC slot. I can't think of the last time. And there's a reason we can't think of it, because the commercials and the just lack of continuity in that game was.
I feel like I remember, like when I was in high school, which would have been early 2000s. I feel like there was a night game, and that's the last one I can remember.
There's three.
Maybe 2002. I mean, or 2001. It's yeah.
Ooh,
real quick.
I happen to remember 2002. That was during the day. I think I was like 51-7 that year.
Okay.
I can't remember what
it was. There was just one. I just remember one random 7:30. Just I don't know.
Yeah, it hasn't happened a lot, but hey, I'm happy to be 12-0. All that nice stuff.
Dave McMahon of 2009. So I was wrong. Is it really 2009?
2009 at night. Hey, there's one person in this chat that I will listen to everything this man says. Dave McMahon will tell you. And there's also one person there's three things in life that are constants. Real quick, Brandon. There's death, taxes, and Dr. Greg Steele disagreeing with every take that I've ever given on this. Ever. He will disagree. He says Cook is much better. Dude, I could say the sky is blue and Dr. Greg Steele will somehow tell me the sky is purple. And that's why I love the show, because we all have our own opinions, right? But Brandon, your thoughts on the game tonight for Georgia? Wasn't pretty, but they got it done, right?
Yeah, I mean, they got it done. I mean, I guess it's just one of those things where, like, you guys have talked about it. All the UGA people have talked about it, how Georgia doesn't seem to get up for these type of games where they know it's an overmatched opponent and all that stuff. I expect them to come out guns a-blazing against Alabama. But, just looking at the stats, I mean, this was a old school UGA play calling, like, pass versus run wise. And it makes sense, of course, Georgia Tech, worst run defense, all that stuff. Only 20 attempts for Beck. Man, you know what? Guys, I am seriously not one of these fans that complains about officiating that much. I really don't. I mean, it's a part of the game, especially in a close game. I mean, it's going to happen. It's part of the game. But God, man, that great pass that Beck gave Bell and it got called back because of the ineligible receiver. I mean, did that seem kind of ticky-tack to y'all?
It did, but then also on that, if you look at the replay, Cedric Van Pran, for whatever reason, just like flops down. It's almost like he told on himself. He just sat down and threw his hands up, and then the ref threw the flag. So, like, had he not done that, I don't think they could.
Maybe they don't notice him.
Yeah, but he sits down and he like throws his hands up like, damn, I went too far. When in actuality, I really don't think he did. Like, again, does he not sit on the ground and kind of throw his hands up? It's almost like when the offensive lineman, does the holding, but then kind of throws his hands up after, like, wasn't me, boss? Like you're almost pointing yourself out to the referees. So it was one of those where the ref threw the flag after he sat down. Now, I'm sure that they'll probably bust his balls in film study, like, yo, dude, you didn't have to do that. He wasn't going to call that on you. But Van Pran's a good guy. He's a solid, honest human. He knew he made a mistake and he owned up to it, and they threw the flag. But yes, there was some ticky-tack fouls called tonight, and like I said, I'm not one to complain about the refs either. I do think the refs had Georgia Tech plus 24.5. So that's my thought.
Tell you what, pro tip for the last few weeks has been wait till the other team scores, because they score first always, and then bet Georgia to cover from there live. And then this week it finally bit us in the ass.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Let's just let Alabama go up 7-0 so we can get our head out of our ass.
Oh, they will. That's a guarantee.
It's definitely going to happen.
It's
definitely
going to
happen.
100%.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about Alabama's defense? They're still, I mean, they're not like whoa, but they're still like kind of good though, right?
Yeah, they're good.
I know they're not.
They're not the Alabama of old.
Would you say it's still the best defense we've faced?
Best defense Georgia's faced would be Bama coming up. You know what? I'll do you one better. I'll bring in a guy that might just tell you the answer to that. Dane Young. Dane Young. Put you on the spot here. Is Alabama going to be the best defense Georgia's faced all season?
Secondary for sure. Across the back with Kool-Aid McKinstry, with Terrion Arnold, Caleb Downs, like especially in terms of athletes. Front, I'm not willing to go there right now. I think Missouri was really good at slowing down Georgia's run game, and I think that's the key to stopping Georgia, is getting Georgia in more pass-first situations, more third and longs. Alabama can do that a little bit, but I mean, Auburn was able to run on Alabama when Auburn can't pass. And so
looks like you've been talking to Brent Rollins, because Brent Rollins says Bama D is a lot like UGA. Strength is the secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeremy Neighbor says maybe Mizzou. So, yeah, it would probably come down to Mizzou and Bama, but they're neck and neck.
I've been saying, and it looks like it's playing out that way, where they're saying like the front, it used to be about the front seven over the back end, and now it's like all the way around,
Yeah.
And man, I hate it how people can run on us now. It seems like the tape is out now, like on running outside on us like big time.
Yeah, we're definitely, speaking of tape, we're definitely going to need to see some film don't lie on the outside runs there and what's causing such success for the opposition and the like.
I mean, I think some of it is just football's changing. Like, unless you have a deadly accurate passer, your quarterback is going to have to be able to run. And in fact, like, I'm going to be surprised in future Georgia quarterback recruits, again, unless they're deadly accurate, then I think everyone's going to have to run like a 4.7 and below. I think that's just going to be what's required in football, because defenders are so athletic, and just to get the numbers advantage, just the threat of Haynes King running up the middle open up a lot of stuff on the edge for Georgia Tech.
A lot of folks in the comments, guys, like Bruce Farmer here says, their secondary couldn't stop the Auburn limited passer today. Worried about them, hilarious. Look, they're a tough team, man. They are. To kind of downplay Alabama, I don't know if I'd do that.
It's also rivalry week, and Hugh Freeze. I don't know. Watching that game, I'm sitting there thinking they said screw New Mexico State and have been looking at Alabama for 2 weeks. That's my takeaway, because they played Alabama as great as you can play with not having a roster that should be competing with Alabama in that situation. And there they were, 31 yards away from a win, if they only played it a little smarter or just average to smart.
And we can scoff at that, but like Georgia Tech lost to Bowling Green. So it's kind of
that stuff happens in football too. I mean,
it's that Tech prepared for us all year. I mean, when they hired Key last year, he said we have 365 days to prepare to beat a certain team in this state.
Yeah, and we've talked about this too, Brandon. Is you're going to get everybody's best shot when you're Georgia. You're going to get Georgia Tech's, like, I don't know if there's anything better than best, like their bestesses. Is that a word, Dane? I know you're in journalism.
Whenever Georgia loses, that's easily one of the greatest wins in that school's history. Like, no,
right?
This win streak is ridiculous, y'all. 20 wins. What the heck?
Had they won tonight, I mean, this is probably up there. Dave McMahon could help me out, but probably their most significant regular season win. I mean, you break Georgia's record of, like you said, 28 straight, could be 29, most in the SEC. It's a home game, night game. This is a huge. And look, don't think that Georgia Tech isn't going to build on this. Brent Key isn't going to build on this. Hey, we were one possession away from these guys. We just need you. We need you, Mr. 4-star, to come join us. And like Jason said earlier in the show, I think that I know you don't want to hear this, but as Georgia fans, I think Tech's, and again, they're not gonna go out there and compete for 5 stars. I don't think
they're not closing the gap with Georgia anytime soon.
But they're going to build something. And look, this, and I've said it before too. This game, it's not fun unless both these teams are kind of competitive. And tonight it was a competitive game, and you had you locked in for the whole game. Most of the time, you're turning this thing off. It's a noon game. It's 42-7 at halftime, and you're like, man, this was fun.
Tech's problem is their hierarchy in the sense of like Buster Faulkner, what he did tonight with that offense is likely to get him attention from bigger schools to be their play caller and offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Now, if that's a Georgia in that situation, it's to take a coordinator and to make them the head coach. But that's just the hierarchy of college football, where some team with more money that can give a coordinator $1.5 million a year, maybe $2 million if it's a high end. Like Buster Faulkner is going to be in those conversations before long with more performances like this one.
Hey, Jason, Kirby downplayed this and even kind of scoffed at this when asked about it this week. About Buster Faulkner and the like being over there. And Dawg asked, does the fact that Tech's OC and other coaches were coaches with the Dawg last year, I'm assuming they're asking, does that affect this outcome of this game? And like I said, Kirby was like, our film's out there, you can watch our film. It's I think it's a little deeper than that. Than he wants to give credit for there.
I think it sort of, yes. I think it's more of those guys are good coaches. Buster Faulkner is a really good coach. Yep. I think that's more of what it comes down to. You can have a coach on your staff who turns out not to be that great, and they go somewhere else, and then they can't do anything against you when you play them later and on a future schedule. Buster Faulkner is a good coach. They thought really highly of him, obviously, at Georgia, and he's getting an opportunity at Georgia Tech and did a tremendous job tonight with that rushing attack and with that quarterback. And it seems like when that quarterback is on, and I, obviously, admittedly, haven't watched them all too often. It sounds like when he's on, he's great. When he's off, it's terrible. So he's very, very hot and cold. But yeah, with the familiarity thing, here's the thing, and I think Brent Rollins, when he comes on, I assume he's going to come on later. Once I'm off, he can really go go into it. Football, we make a lot of try to like the secrets of football and this and that and the schematics of each individual coach. So much of it's just all copycat at the end of the day, and there's so much that's borrowed, taken, tweaked, and it's a matter of when are plays called, how are they dialed up, and who has the best feel for a game when you're calling a game. And really, the feel is so much more important than the X's and O's, and that's what ends up losing guys' jobs. You could be the most brilliant football mind, but you have no clue what you're doing, whether it's an offensive play caller, a defensive play caller for that matter, or a head coach. So I see coordinators who are exceptional at being – Will Muschamp's a great example. Exceptional defensive coordinator historically, not a great head coach. Some guys, they are really good at this. They don't have a feel for something else. And so I'm kind of with Kirby on this. I think what he's trying to say is, look, our stuff's out there. You can scout our players. You can scout our tendencies. You can look at what we do. One, it's on us to make sure that we can still do what we want to do well, and it's on them to figure out ways to stop it. At the end of the day, it's the players. The players
Right.
make the plays. That's what it comes down to.
I think too, like it's easy to say that just because like this aligned this way. You played without Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, and that makes your offense infinitely harder and more likely to make mistakes because that's your two best offensive players. Mims is probably right there in terms of talent too. Georgia got better when Mims came back. I wouldn't necessarily say that Georgia's advantage against Missouri was that Dominic Lovett gave them all the intel on Missouri. Like, yeah,
Right.
that happened and it was correlated. But what helped Georgia down the stretch is you got Bowers back some and you've had Mims back some. Next week, if Georgia doesn't have Bowers and McConkey, which I guess we'll find out. I mean, I'm assuming Bowers is going to be okay to go unless we get more intel otherwise. If they're not there, this is going to be a tough road to hoe for Georgia.
Yeah, I just want to put it out there. Nobody cares about your fantasy football teams except you, but I do want to put it out there. I made it to the fantasy football championship game in my college football league. I've only been in it 3 years, won the first 2, was set to win this one. Brock Bowers is not playing. What? And we don't find out about that till game time, and I've got a tight end on the bench that I could have started. He scored 30 points, could have won the league.
Oof.
You know, not saying, I'm just saying Kirby owes me $200.
Please send him that letter.
Yeah.
I mean, his reaction if you bring that up to him.
Yeah, like I'm gonna show up when I get back into town Monday. Just come to the presser and be like, "Hey, Kirby, so Brock didn't play, right? But you do owe me $200 because
do the SEC championship game teleconference, and so it's like the whole conference.
Yeah. Right.
So wait, how much how many points did you lose by?
So I lost by 22, and the backup tight end that I had on the bench had 29.6.
Who was your backup?
Blake Sanat from Kansas State. Yeah.
Wow.
Is this a money league thing?
Yeah, it is. It is. Somebody said, "What college
thing I've heard about you, Paul?"
Yeah, what college fantasy? Yeah, well, so I got invited to it 3 years ago. I've won it they weren't going to invite me back this year. I've won every year since they invited me. And I lost because Brock Bowers didn't play.
You needed Kendall Milton.
No, I needed some information, guys. That's what I needed. Brandon, before we let you go, because we do have the boss here, unfortunately, he's in the background, and we have to get back to to work.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for letting me ramble. I'm here for a little while. Love all your guys' stuff. The Coach on and watch along. Dane, you make me a smarter fan. I appreciate you guys.
Whoa! Clip that, Dane.
Oh yeah.
This is recorded, man. This is don't give me that material.
Wow.
He's not talking. But all right, guys, have a good one.
Hey,
Thanks,
we'll see you.
Take care.
Make sure Roddy heard that.
I'm sure he did. He acted like he wasn't. He was looking down, but I'm sure he did. Bring on the boss here. Well, as we bring the boss on, we'll let Jason go. He's got probably some parlays to go hit for these late games. What are you running?
NHL.
Yeah.
Say what?
Stop. You're running NHL, dude. 1-800 gambler, JB. 1-800.
Listen. You want to know what the hardest sport to bet and win is?
I'm guessing NHL.
No, football. Football is by far the hardest sport to gamble and win.
I think
NHL
is easier than NFL, right?
Oh, NFL college is easier than NFL. NFL is by far the hardest. College football easily the second hardest.
The two that I bet on the most. That's great. So
yes, that's why they win, because football is the most engaging and the most popular sport, and everybody wants to bet on it, and that is what sucks the money out of everybody's wallet.
Jason,
Jeremy Neighbor says, "Jason, you have a problem. First step is admission, my friend."
I'm a nerd a little bit on this.
Hey man, I'm just saying if the Avs win, I get $100, and that's all I'm saying.
Here's where your money.
The Avs were winning.
If you become knowledgeable tennis, you can make some cash in tennis.
Oh God, nobody cares about tennis or your gambling
that's
addiction or your fantasy football. Talk about the goddamn Georgia game. Come on.
Tennis and golf. That's where I've done the best.
Nobody cares.
Well, Jason, have fun. The party's ended. Roddy's here now.
Yeah,
we'll talk to you later.
All right, I'll take care.
Jason, you got 17 stories to get at it in the next 25 minutes. Come on.
Well, so now that the fun's over, Roddy, how was the game with Coach D?
Coach was not happy.
No?
Well, no. I mean, Georgia doesn't. I wrote in a column a couple weeks ago that Georgia was due for a clunker. You know, I was thinking it might be a clunker against Tennessee. I expect Georgia to win, to go on the road, but you just can't win every game. Now, before I tear off on Georgia, I've been doing this a long time. I never thought I would write that Georgia is gone undefeated in the regular season again. I remember when we wrote that in 2021, we're like, the perfect season. Then last year's like the perfect season again, and it was the perfect season all the way through, 15-0. Well, they've done it again. It's another 12-0 season. Georgia is 36-0 in regular season games. If I told you remember the last loss in the regular season, that Florida game where Dwan Mathis and Stetson Bennett, are just injured or just inaccurate. And I'm like, hey, if I told you after the game, don't worry, Georgia's not going to lose another regular season game for the next 3 years, you'd have been like, oh, the hell out of here. But hey, they did. And this was Georgia's clunker. This was the game I've been worried about all year. I just been waiting for the shoe to drop. When was it going to happen? Was it going to be against Missouri? Was it going to be against Tennessee?
I don't think this was the clunker. I think it was Auburn. Like, I never thought Georgia was losing this game.
No, I mean,
Georgia probably should have lost at Auburn.
Maybe. Well, you can have more than one. You can have a couple close calls. I had a couple close calls last year, but they were playing so well. And I did not expect it to be this game. I was with you. I thought that was it. I picked Georgia to win by 4 touchdowns. I'm like, man, they could run on this team, and they could, and they did. But you give 14 points off of turnovers. You have probably the most penalties you've had all year, at least 6 for 60 yards. So turnovers, penalties. You kicked ass on special teams. Probably saved your bacon a bit there. So I was just expecting a lot more. Now, I told people on the board, Lad McConkey likely not going to play. Ra Thomas not going to play. Tate Ratledge wasn't going to play. I did not think that Brock Bowers was going to be held out. But I did specifically ask Kirby about it on Monday. I'm like, how's Brock Bowers after his thing? And he said, look, guys, when he goes out and plays, it hurts. And when you play and plant and kick and run and block and all that stuff, it's going to hurt worse. And so we have days of recuperation. But I never got any indication that he wasn't going to be able to go tonight. I mean, I knew that he'd be playing and it would be sore and it would hurt, but I didn't know that he wasn't going to go. And to me, if you don't have your star guys out there, your 4 of your best players on offense, and hey, not having Demas Johnson out there is big too. You played a lot of this game with 2 freshman inside linebackers, 2 freshmen. Raylan Wilson hadn't seen the field that much, and he was out there a lot, and CJ Allen having to play a lot. My point is, you didn't play your best game. You had the most penalties. You were -2 in turnovers. A lot of things did not go your way, and you still win, and you still keep your record intact. This team is built different. This team is strong. Alabama should have lost. Georgia could have lost. To me, that is a huge damn difference. Shoulda and coulda. So I think that before how much I love to overreact, and at the end of my monologue here, it's like that's the difference between these two. And next week will be the national championship is next week. So I think if Georgia beats Alabama, I think they win the next 2. I didn't see anything that scares me in Michigan. I didn't see anything that scares me from Florida State, Washington, Oregon. Who else is up there?
That's pretty much it. Maybe. Texas, maybe. Texas, maybe.
Okay. I'm not worried about Texas.
Texas and Oregon.
I should be. Maybe I could be a dumbass, but I think right now the biggest threat, if you can get through a running quarterback in Jalen Milroe, who's much better than Tech, and they have a better defense than Tech. This is going to be a much tougher game. But I don't expect Georgia to have another clunker next week. I don't expect Brock Bowers not to play. I don't expect Lad McConkey not to play. I doubt Tate Ratledge comes back. I think he's just – and Ra-Ra's ankle is pretty bad. So maybe you don't have those guys. But that's my point is if you win next week, I think you're favored in the next few games, hands down.
Yeah, it's been looking at this game, like I told Dane and Jason after watching Auburn, Alabama, just a great Saturday of college football. And it's feels like it was so short. Like we were just doing the first game POS.
Yeah.
It feels like yesterday. And now the regular season is over. Now, it flies by. But a really good.
You have kids now. See?
Yeah.
I mean, we literally have SEC head coaches being hired today. Like,
right.
Off season's creeping into the season too hard.
Yeah. You have one coach finishing coaching his team, beating a top 10 Louisville team, and now he's the head coach within 4 hours. So it goes way too fast. But I think after watching Auburn, Alabama, I was like, man, I really think Georgia can beat this Alabama team by 17 points. They can do it. And then you go and you see Georgia play Georgia Tech, and you've got to think that Alabama is now thinking that they can beat Georgia, maybe not by 17, but maybe 7-10.
Yeah, but don't you think that Georgia's looking at it going, like, we can whoop their ass? They should have lost to Auburn, who just lost to New Mexico State. I agree. We should be able to pummel them. This shouldn't be close. So, yeah, the SEC looked bad today.
Yes, that's what I'm kind of getting at.
Well, from a broader standpoint, I think that this college football season is probably evidence of why a 12-team playoff is needed, because this is actually one of those years that I could probably make a convincing argument that a team that's ranked 8th, 9th, or 10th could go on a heater in 3 games and win a title out of nowhere. Like, I can't definitively tell you that there's a single team playing better than Missouri right now. Not even Georgia, based on what I saw tonight. I think Georgia's a better team. We saw them beat them. I would pick Georgia to win that game. But I'm just saying, a team like that in a 12-team playoff would be dangerous. And I kind of think that for what Georgia's schedule is turning into, adding Oklahoma or Texas every year, like they're not requiring a team to be undefeated every year, like what Georgia has been doing. That's not going to be fair based on the way this is going.
Yeah, this year isn't fair. I mean, it's not fair that other conferences can get in with an easier schedule, and that the SEC championship can knock out there. It is an extension of the playoffs. Okay, so I guess this is a quarterfinal game, right?
Yeah.
So quarter, semis, finals. So,
but like you're going to have teams that lost earlier. Like if Georgia were to lose to Alabama, that their loss damages their resume less than Georgia's, and that's never been fair. But that's always been the case.
This is the one season where if everything goes according to plan, you could have 4 undefeated teams in the playoff. If everything blows up this next weekend, there's going to be 3 or 4 teams that are going to be highly upset.
One-loss teams are ready to burn the place down.
Yeah, there's going to be 3 teams that are very unhappy with how this goes down. So I'm sure that the College Football Playoff Committee and Boo, I think his name's Boo Kerrigan, the leader of the committee, is hoping that everything can go chalk this next week. But you know that's not how it goes. There's one guy here that never goes chalk, and we appreciate it. He's top tier. I mean, he really is. And Jeremy, I'm not talking about you. We'll get to you in a second, Jeremy. You're top tier. You know that. You know that, Jeremy. You know you are. There's another guy, man, and he's almost. I want to say he's kind of like the Mizzou of the SEC. Started off a little slow, and then the man has just been on a to the moon trajectory, and that's Double G. Double G, what's up, baby?
Hey guys, how y'all tonight?
Man, doing great now that you're here.
I'm gonna put some levity on this, guys.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, we was missing 4 players tonight, not counting the defensive player that's hurt. 4 offensive players. So we had some calls that goes against us. But we also got to realize that Georgia Tech's a better team than their record is.
I can agree with that.
They beat 2 teams when they only had 1 loss. They played Louisville real hard and almost won that game. Georgia Tech could be easily 9-3 right now instead of 6-6.
I can't disagree there, Double G.
But another thing is Auburn played a hell of a game today.
They did.
But so I don't think none of us need to get big headed thinking that Alabama ain't what we think they are, because Alabama is what we think they are.
I've been saying it all year.
Auburn just got up for that game today.
They got Jordan-Hare Stadium. They got the late November voodoo.
And truthfully,
you've been following these games long enough. You know what rivalry games are like. It's your whole season.
Yes. If it wasn't for that game against New Mexico last week, I would say Auburn is a lot better team than their record is, because they have played a lot of close games.
I feel like that's more of a reach than the Georgia Tech one, but you're still on a roll here, Gary. I'm not going to stop you.
But the thing that really scares me about the Alabama, well, not scares, but bothers me a little bit, is about the Alabama game coming up. It's in Atlanta, and we have never beat Alabama in Atlanta.
They are 7-0 in that Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
And Mercedes-Benz or the Georgia Dome.
I don't even know if the Falcons have 7 wins in that stadium.
So I think
just kill Paul.
I don't know. Can we change the stadium to
Bobby Dodd
Stadium?
Do like Atlanta United did when they were waiting on the stadium. Just go play it over there instead.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, how weird was it to? I know this was weird for me because they added this year, Bobby Dodd, that Hyundai logo on the field. It just kind of felt cheap to me. What did you like? Did you think anything of that big logo that they had on the field?
It just seemed off.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's different. It'll take a few years to get used to. But I think Tech could have the coaches that they need to actually become relevant again in the future.
Yeah, they've got the right guy. More schools should probably do this. Hire guys that are, that's their alma mater.
I mean,
Seems to work out more.
Even if they just take the recruits that Georgia doesn't have room for, they should be a top 25 team.
We should be able to lock between Georgia and Tech. We should be able to lock down Georgia's recruit, and we haven't been able to do that here lately.
Yeah,
not in the world of NIL. It's a different. These the kids in Georgia are some of the best in the nation. They're going to command top dollar, and that's just not what Kirby Smart's going to do. He's not going to pay for it.
I mean, I was watching the Washington State game earlier. There was a defensive back on Washington State from Ocilla, Georgia, and I was like, dang.
Well, it's like this. He's not going to pay him on the front end. He's going to pay him on the back end.
Exactly. I agree 100%. We've documented that many times. The reason you have a Cedric Van Pran back here is a guy who could have gone pro, and he's like, hey, I got a pretty good NIL deal. I'm not saying that his was, but you do it on a proven guy, so you got to think that, Malachi Starks or Kamari Lassett or, those guys, you want those guys getting good NIL deals. You don't want a Jaheim Singletary, getting one coming in and then transferring to Miami.
I got two more questions for y'all, and then I'll let y'all go. One thing is, do you think we can pass around the hat and take up a multi-million-dollar NIL deal for Brock to stay for next year?
Gary, I'm gonna let you know something. We have a story in our admin that we have not run yet, and it is basically how it is very hard for Brock Bowers to leave this year. It's going to be hard on him. He is very much split. Now he's going. I'm sure we spoke to people close to him, close to the family, and they said, look, this guy would love to come back. He didn't get his senior year in California. COVID knocked that out. He knows the NFL is not going anywhere. He's had the same roommates for 3 years. He loves those guys. He loves going fishing and hunting with those guys. He loves even stuff like team runs. He loves the camaraderie. He loves Georgia. In other words, this is a Roquan Smith thing. Roquan Smith renewed his lease and was going to come back. And Kirby's like, get the hell out of here. Go get paid. Go be a top 10 draft pick. And that's exactly what's going to happen with him. But he's going to ask Kirby Smart and Todd Hartley, what should I do? They're going to tell him, you need to go. And he's going to go. But he is going to be torn. It's not a done deal. I can't wait to get out of here and go be a pro.
I think he's going to, but I think he's going to feel like he got unfinished business with all the games he missed this year.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And that's another part of it. So this is a guy who – so I haven't run the story yet. Jed did great sourcing it because I don't know how to make it clear that we know he's going, but he is going to be torn about going because he really would love to come back and have that extra year, have that senior year. You don't get to come back. You don't need to go pro and then come back years later. You can finish your degree, but you don't get this year. It's a one-shot deal. He's not like he's desperate for the money. He knows it's going to be there. The NFL's been waiting for him for 2 years, Gary, so they can wait one more.
But even when you do the money piece of this, like, 'cause it's easy to say, well, couldn't someone around Georgia or a group of people come up with $10 million that would equal that NFL first year? But when they signed that as a top 10 pick, you're getting like a $40 to $50 million package, including a big signing bonus.
Yeah,
that there's nothing in college going to approach that. Not
So that's
not unless you're firing Jimbo Fisher.
My last question is this, and this is something to ponder on. Do you think with Texas and Oklahoma coming in the SEC this coming year, do you think Mizzou regrets leaving the Big 12?
No, because not money. Yeah. Money.
Well, the money, but
$45 million, baby.
But if they was in the Big 10 right now, they would be undefeated and they would have a chance for the national championship this year.
I mean, maybe, but they did have to kick like the longest field goal in program history to beat Kansas State. So maybe they would have stumbled against Texas Tech or something. It's a good hypothetical. I get it. But like SEC money, Big Ten money, that dominates the sport right now. If you're not in those groups in the next 10 years, that you're left behind and not even eligible to compete. Like this is all changing.
Yeah. And how much longer is the Big 12 going to last before they get swallowed up too?
Longer in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is the final week of the Pac-12. It's gonna be the Pac-2 after tonight. The Pac-2 after dark.
And then Oregon State lost its coach. Like,
gotta love it. Hey, Double G, we appreciate you, man. We'll see you. What, next week, right?
Oh yeah.
What's give me a score real quick for next week.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be a lower scoring game. I'm gonna say 21-14 us Dogs.
Ooh.
It's nerves.
Yeah, 21.
No, it ain't nerves. I want it to be a low scoring game because I know people love these high scoring offensive games. I'm just the opposite. I love a low scoring defensive game.
Yeah.
That's why
like
especially when you got two really good offenses that the defenses are stopping.
Right. Hey, John said, what juke joint is GG about to head to? What are you doing tonight, Double G?
No, I'm probably about to head to bed.
I heard that.
I quit drinking about 4 or 5 years ago, so I don't go to juke joints no more.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm proud of you, Double G. We will we'll talk to you next week, my friend.
Okay, y'all have a good night and be blessed, guys.
You
Thanks,
too.
Gary. Clearly, I haven't.
Yeah. A man that he's got 2 kids, so he might be drinking heavy. I don't know. I don't want to speak for him though. Jeremy, what's up, man?
What's going on, guys? No, I ain't drinking. I don't drink near like I used to.
No,
I've never been a heavy drinker to begin with, but I definitely don't get to drink like I used to. It's more maybe at a family function or on the rare date night me and the wife get now. It's few and far between these days.
I heard that. What's your thoughts on this game, man?
Much like everybody else. I think I don't think it had an effect on what the outcome was going to be. I do think the officiating affected the score of the game. Again, taking away that Dylan Bell catch. And I don't know what y'all thought about the one that they took away earlier. I thought maybe the one where I guess they determined him to be incomplete. I thought that was still kind of close.
Yeah, what did Coach say about that, Roddy? Did he have an opinion on that? The Dylan Bell,
about the Dylan Bell like fingertip catch.
Yeah,
he thought it should be a catch, but he said, you don't, because he didn't pull it into his body. He's like, he's holding it, and that's control. But then he said, when they said, well, it's overturned, it's no longer a catch. He goes, well, I guess you do got to pull it in. So he was expecting it kind of to be overturned because he's like, this is ACC refs. I remember he's got a history of being screwed over in that stadium. So
they showed it tonight. They showed it while we're sitting beside him.
Oh,
this is a man who has been absolutely hosed by those refs. So with personal experience, he knows that it's going to be shit. But yeah, the refs were bad. And I hated that Cedric Van Brand got called for illegal man downfield, but I almost feel like he could have sold it. Because once he realized he'd climbed to the second level, he kind of sat down. Was like,
thank you. I said that. That's exactly what I said.
The ref looked at him and goes, oh, yeah, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah,
There was a flag.
that's exactly what happened. He was sitting right in front of the ref. He sat down and was like, oh, shit, my bad. And the ref was like, oh, well.
Yeah, that's right.
It's that commercial where the guy's like, the ball's off me, ref. And they handed over the basketball commercial.
Well, my biggest thing, and I'll leave it at that, I thought they were calling Georgia for every little thing possible tonight. And Georgia, I thought, was coming into this game the least penalized team in the SEC. They didn't just lose discipline all of a sudden. I'll just leave it at that. So I thought I thought it was very ticky-tack.
These things
Georgia
aren't.
Tech wasn't called for a bunch of punches, and there were a bunch of punches thrown.
And these things aren't mutually exclusive, Jeremy. Like both these things can be true, what you're saying, but also like when Georgia has the turnovers that it does, it's kind of hard to point the fingers elsewhere in terms of like inconsistencies or sloppy things. Like Georgia really hurt itself in this game.
Yeah, they did, but at the same time, they wouldn't have had that interception in the end zone. The tipped interception had they not called the penalty on Van Pran, so it could go both ways, I guess.
Well, and I'd say that's probably, if I got an overreaction to this game, that one particular drive where Beck ended up throwing the pick in the end zone, that was the drive where I thought, all right, I was thinking, here's the drive to milk the clock and just let them run their guts out. But we started throwing our way down the field a little bit. I thought for sure, I was like, all right, here's where we can really, cut their heart out. Milton's gashing them for 8-9 yards a pop, and then we'll get a score, and then this will pretty much put this thing on ice. And that's not what happened. We start passing, and then we end up getting the deflected pick in the end zone. That was probably, if I've got the biggest gripe, it was probably that drive right there that just I thought really, honestly, could have been a straight running drive, and we would have ended up with a touchdown. That's just my thought.
Because it seemed like in the third quarter, like Georgia could kind of run away with this and kind of ease into the night. And then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, it's a one possession game pretty late here. And it didn't have to be that way.
Yeah. And you had to, I mean, heck, there was close to 4 minutes left. You had to get a couple first downs to make sure Georgia Tech didn't get the ball back to potentially tie the game. Like you had to go out there and you couldn't just sit on it. You had to make some plays, which they did. Georgia did, obviously, but it was a lot closer than I think anybody anticipated, right? And an 8-point game is, a huge win and they say moral victories don't count, and college football coaches don't care about moral victories. Brent Key is low key. He's celebrating tonight in his head.
I think you had two offensive coordinators that had really good games today. And Bobo was a little hamstrung by not having his best guys in there. But like that play that Tech ran where it was kind of the fake reverse and it looked like Haynes was going to be throwing on the run and he kept it for like 11 yards to the right. Like that was one of the cooler plays I've ever seen. And I think a ton of offense is going to steal that. I wouldn't be surprised if Bama took that one for next week.
When they brought in the other quarterback on his keeper, it was well done. I mean, it's look, they've had good formations that took advantage of the way Georgia's defense plays. You had a guy who's seen it, who's coached against it. He knew how to get them out of their gaps. He also knew that you're missing Dumas Johnson. You're going to have some new guys out there. But even Kamari Lasser gets a flag on. Malachi Starks gets a penalty. It's just – it's a clunker. Cedric Van Pran gets called for illegal man downfield. It's just, bad. It's a bad game.
And like you said, Radi, and I think someone else said
it could have been 52-7.
I'm gonna chalk this up to it being rivalry week. These kids are 18, 22 years old. They've been up for 3 weeks in a row against some huge conference opponents. It's hard to maintain that, that ability to get up every game. And then just thank goodness, they were still able to do enough to get the win tonight. And, now we'll move on to Bama. I had a friend, I was talking with him tonight. I was like, I said, Bama could definitely beat our butt next weekend. But I said, this is not the Alabama of, the last decade. Honestly, not even 2 years ago with Bryce Young. I said, this team is very beatable. Like I don't see any reason why Georgia doesn't beat them next weekend. Again, that's not to say the same that Georgia can't be beat next weekend. But I see no reason why Georgia doesn't win next Saturday.
When does the tide change on this? And no pun intended with the wording there. When does it change from? Because I still feel like Georgia fans are still scared of Alabama. The big brother, little brother syndrome. Even though Georgia has won 2 national titles in a row, it's still kind of Alabama's still the big brother. It doesn't matter. When does that change? Is it this game that changes that? And I'll kind of throw that around the whole horn. I'll start with you, Jeremy, but I feel like maybe this is the game where it's like, all right, we finally can go out there and we are the big brother now. But there's still some little brother syndrome going around Georgia, even though you've won 2 national titles.
I think it's because of that guy standing on the other sideline. I mean, I think that's got a lot to do with it. Saban. I mean, I think that's got a lot to do with it, really. And the fact that they've done a great job coaching this team back up from where they were at the earlier part of the season. I mean, honestly, after the Texas loss and then the South
there were 3 loss teams.
I thought I was like, man, this might be a 3-loss Bama team. And I mean, credit to them, man. They've put it together. Milroe, they found things and got it clicking, and now they're they win 11-1. I mean, that's been a great coaching job by them this year. But they are still very beatable.
Roddy, is it? Am I tripping here? I think I'm.
No, I mean there's fear of them, but again, how many times have you beat them?
Not very many.
Once since Kirby's been here.
Yeah, I mean,
we were talking about 3 regular season undefeated seasons. The season prior to that was COVID. They had 10 games. Georgia lost to Florida and Alabama in the regular season. Then you get your first regular season undefeated. You play Alabama. Alabama stomps your head in. Then you get them again in playoffs, and you beat them. But even then, took a pick 6, and you played like crap for 3 quarters. I mean, you can't tell me you didn't go into that game and kick Alabama's ass for your first national title in 40 years. You played like crap, and then they didn't play much better, but it's just you didn't feel like you dominated them. So you beat them once.
That's what I'm kind of hopeful for.
And then what are they doing right now? Why are they red hot? Quarterback play.
Yeah.
You've faced running quarterbacks all year. They've given you fits. I mean, Auburn, plenty of other teams, it's just you can't stop that guy. Tech tonight. Well, now you're going to find a guy who's better than all those guys combined. So you should be concerned about it. You can beat them. This isn't the Alabama. Just like Tech isn't your grandpa's Georgia Tech team. This isn't your grandpa's Alabama team. This team that makes a lot of mistakes. They're heavily penalized. They're not nearly as good on defense as they have been in the past. You should win this game, but you're going to have to scheme a way to stop Milroe because he's good. I know they benched him. Doesn't matter. They've figured out a way to work with him. So that's why you get that little brother syndrome, because next week you're going up against your kryptonite. That's the thing that's given you fits all year. And again, we don't have the same defense when we look across the front. We don't see the same guys. We don't see the same people. I guess one of the biggest takeaways today was the fact that Georgia said, yeah, their schemes worked, their formations worked, their running quarterback worked, but they also got pushed. They pushed Georgia's defensive front around. And if you look at Proctor at that left tackle, yeah, he's a true freshman. But he's good. So they're going to have some guys. They got some weapons, and they've got Jermaine Burton, who I know Georgia fans like to make fun of, but he's good. They got Caleb Downs, probably going to win. I know he'll be a freshman All-American, but he could be a regular All-American. So, yeah, there's a lot of – hey, you're into the play. You're playing for a championship in the SEC. You're going to be facing a great team. If you win then, you're going to be facing another great team in the playoffs. So it gets harder and harder to win at the end of the season. So it doesn't matter that it's Alabama. If it was LSU, we'd be talking about here comes Jaden Daniels and how good he is. If it was Ole Miss, we'd be like, well, you stopped Jackson Dart once, but can you do it twice? So you're going to hype up anybody you're playing.
To this extent, though, Dane, with Alabama, are you going to hype? Are you going to? Does the tide turn if Georgia wins this? Does the little brother syndrome finally go away?
Not if it's close. Then you're just going to say that's still two of the best 2 programs that there are, and Georgia edged them out. Like that's the case in the national championship. Is that Keely Ringo had the pick 6, and it was a celebration. We know all that, but those are 2 very competitive, close teams. It's going to take an overwhelming win for Georgia against Alabama to change the narrative that you're saying. Because, what's the most pivotal game of recent history? I mean, national championships, SEC, but what got Georgia to be in that class? 2015, Alabama, Georgia. And Roddy, you and I were both there. We didn't really know each other at the time. Paul, you may have been there too. You looked on that field and you said, oh, Georgia ain't ready for this. Georgia don't have those guys. And now you look at it and you say, Georgia has those guys. And in fact, I look at this and I say, Alabama doesn't have the skill guys that Georgia does right now. And that's different.
And that's my thing. I think the opportunity is finally there next weekend. If we can limit Milroe, I don't think there's any way to stop him. I think if we can limit him,
Oh, just make it throw. They can beat you with your arm.
Yeah, just make them throw the ball. Yeah.
Man, yeah, if we could limit him, I think the possibility is there that Georgia can finally return the favor and kick Bama's head in. But again, I don't expect that to happen, but I think the opportunity is there next weekend if the defense can find a way to limit Milroe and get a few more punts out of them than what they've done the last few times they've met up.
I suppose the other thing, Paul, is that if Georgia does three-peat, that's something that Nick Saban never did, and he's the best coach in the history of college football.
And that's what I want over. That is a personal thing that I want just to say to Bama fans: if Georgia can pull this off, is to tell them, well, y'all may have all these titles, but y'all don't have 3 in a row. Y'all don't have that. Nobody. Well, honestly, to me, as far as I'm concerned, I think they said Minnesota was the last one, but to me.
Yeah,
this would be the first time something like this has been done because Minnesota, those were voted on champions. No one has done this on the field 3 times in a row, not in college football.
Well, not only that, but like half of Saban's came before the playoff even happened. And so there was one fewer game involved. And I think with Georgia or Bama, you give them a month with those rosters to prepare for anybody. I think it's why Radi and I agree with you that the national championship is essentially in Atlanta because I like Georgia or Bama with a month against anyone.
Well, and that's kind of what I was going to say. I wanted to ask you. I think Radi ended up hitting on it though before I came on. I was going to ask who potentially worries you. Like if I had to pick 2 teams a couple of teams that would worry me I think they could give Georgia matchup headaches. To me, it's 2 1-loss teams, Texas and Oregon, because I think their passing game could give Georgia fits. Totally. But none of the other undefeated teams scare me. Coincidentally, Michigan.
That's a good point.
I don't think Michigan's very physical. I think that'd be a hard-fought game, but I do think Georgia would come out on top because
not good enough quarterback play for Michigan.
Washington doesn't scare me. Florida State doesn't scare me. They're all, Washington's got 9 lives like a cat, keeps finding ways to win, and then Florida State's without their Heisman contender.
They might lose next week.
They almost lost to Florida.
I know. I'm just saying, Louisville's. Yeah, they lost to Kentucky. But...
Perfect scenario, though, for Georgia or Alabama. In that instance, really for Georgia, Louisville losing today, they could beat Florida, knocks the ACC out, and that helps Georgia regardless of what happens next week. I love the hypotheticals, though. I do. It's what makes college football.
I agree with you, though, because like Texas in that passing game, you're like, man, like with time to prepare, that's going to be the best set of like quarterback and receivers, unless Brock Bowers is back and fully healthy, 100% ready to go. That changes the calculus of everything. And maybe in a month that's the case, but and McConkey being the same. But like, yeah, Ewers to A.D. Mitchell, that's the kind of talent that can win a title.
You're right, though. Yeah, you couldn't have said it better, Jeremy. The 12-0 teams, not as scary as those 1-loss teams, and that's very interesting. I haven't thought about it, and you're exactly right. So. Jimmy, what's the score for next week, my man?
Oh man, I was trying to think about that. I think it's closer to what Vegas is calling. I'm going to say Georgia 35, Alabama 31.
What is Vegas calling it right now?
I think they were saying Georgia 4.5, or at least that's what I saw on the ESPN app a little while ago.
Sounds about right, Radi?
I was thinking 4.
Yeah, 4.5, 4, 5. It's gonna be a good one.
If Georgia had blown out Tech like I expect them to, and Alabama needs a last second touchdown to win it, I can see them coming out and saying like 6.5, 7.5, something like that. But no, it's.
I'll tell you, Kirby Smart's not going to say a damn thing about Brock Bowers this week because, like, if it came out that he wasn't playing, that line would move. Like, it's that pivotal.
Yeah, he would. It would. Somebody said CJ 2135 says may come down to Woodring, may come down to the old freshman. Hey, he's been lights out.
You just ruined it. Way to jinx him.
Hey, they've been I haven't, because they've been talking about him being lights out on TV for the past 7 games.
Dude, he's the number 3 scorer in the nation.
That's crazy.
It may come down to Thorson. You never know.
Hey, shout out to Thorson. Another week, no punt returns. The man might he's got potentially 3 games left. Could go a whole season without having any of his punts returned. That's
I'd like to get Dave McMahon in here for that one and see if that's ever happened before. You'd have to dig pretty deep, I think,
We should take a look and see if at the regular season, has anyone ever gone a regular season without having a punt returned?
I would think. I mean, I want to say no, but ignorance is bliss, and that I don't think so. Right? It's tough. That's tough. Jeremy, we appreciate you as always, my friend.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all hit that like button.
My man, he always shouts it out. We'll see you soon, Jeremy.
Jeremy's great.
He is, man. Well, everybody's great that calls in. You know, we've got a star-studded cast here.
You were asking Gary about the whole, Hyundai logo on the field. You know, if you look at the Georgia field, there's right down by the end zone. There's a G there. I know it's supposed to be the power G for Georgia, but I think it's for Gary Gilbreth.
Yeah.
The big G in the middle is the Georgia logo, but there's that little one kind of hidden down there by the goal line. I think that's for Gary.
That is good. No, it's crazy though. It's like I was watching the game and I had totally forgot about the whole Hyundai field because they made that announcement at the beginning of the season, right? And everybody was like, "Oh, that's kind of a sellout." But I didn't. After that, I didn't too much think about it at all. And I'm watching the game and there's a big ass Hyundai logo. I'm like, "Oh my god, yeah, what?" Like that's.
See, if I'm Hyundai, I make them change the Rambling Wreck to like a Hyundai car. Like that
right
contract.
Yeah, we got to update
this is
the
bad
car.
marketing, though. It's like, here's the wreck. It's a Hyundai. Hey, man, we already got enough bad mojo to begin with. So
they're like, hey, you got to bring out an electric vehicle now. You got to get rid of that old school and bring out an electric vehicle for that. Gary said, nice one on that one. That was a good one. Yeah, we appreciate Gary. Crazy game, guys. Crazy weekend for college sports. And, apparently now I'm seeing folks saying in the chat that Mark Stoops is not taking the A&M job.
Whoa.
So,
did Kentucky pay up?
I don't. Maybe Texas A&M pulled a Tennessee, and they got their fans together on Twitter and decided that wasn't the coach that they wanted. Be interesting to see. Speaking of that punting, guys, we do have David.
That sounds to me like it was a trial balloon that was sent out there.
I mean, yeah.
What do you think if we hire Mark Stoops? Mark Stoops is really close, and then they go, dude, you got a guy who has 2 winning conference records in 8 years.
Yeah.
He's in the East. He's not even in the West. And he's only had a winning conference record twice.
And he may have just earned himself a raise.
Yeah.
Hey, I guarantee you his agent is Jimmy Sexton. Look it up, Dane. I guarantee you.
I just assume so. Like, I'm not even going to look it up. I assume they all have Jimmy Sexton. He negotiates with himself.
Yeah, he calls himself, right? He just calls himself. Dave says he believes no one has, not 100% on the punt, no returns in the regular season. Johnny Ballgame, that's you know who that is, right, Roddy?
I do.
That's old 80. Yeah, old 80-88 there.
You don't even talk to me every week.
Yeah, I like him more than you.
That's fair.
Yeah, I get to talk to Rye like once a month, and that's if I call him. He doesn't call me much. It's okay.
Well, no, your internet doesn't work apparently.
Roddy, I just want you to know, my man. I have my laptop.
I don't want to hear it.
I have my laptop set up on a bed right now, sitting on a folding chair in a spare bedroom so we can sit here. My back feels like I've got a 10,000-pound weight on it, and I'm here for you.
You're just talking about producing right now. Like, all of our home setups look trash if you turn the camera the other way.
No, this one's bad, man, compared to I miss my background, man.
You should have brought it with you. That would have been the play. Carry that on.
Dude, I had enough stuff to carry on that plane, dude. It was an absolute disaster.
I've never flown with a kid. You're braver than me.
Needless to say, we'll be staying home for the holidays from here on out, the upcoming years. Bama's kicker.
You got to check the kid in the luggage.
We tried.
Roddy, they don't allow us to do that anymore, like you could do back in the late 90s or 2000, whenever you had kids.
Dude, my aunt was telling a story real quick. She said, a woman showed up. I used to go spend time with my aunt. My mother passed away. I was very young. To go spend time with my aunt in California. And all of a sudden, a lady shows up, knocks on the door, says, I'm a stewardess with Eastern Airlines. I'm here to pick up young Radi Nabulsi. My dad had decided for me to fly back. You used to fly unattended, without an adult. The airline would help you get there. They actually sent a stewardess from the airport to my aunt's house to pick me up. My dad didn't let her know. It's like my aunt had no idea. Someone just shows up and goes, "He's got a flight to catch in like an hour." She's like,
It's also crazy. Like that would never happen in today's society. Somebody coming to get sent to go pick up your child.
Stranger with a piece of paper going, "Here, I'm here to pick up this kid because we're flying him from San Jose, California to Atlanta."
Right.
No, but in a weird way, it kind of sounds like the plot of like a '90s Hallmark movie that ends up in a rom-com by the end of it.
Yeah, like get Roddy home, and he's trying to get home for the holidays, and this stewardess is, helping him out get there.
Some polka music, yeah, definitely.
No, it wasn't fun, guys. I'll tell you that it was not fun, but we made it. We're doing great. Let's see some questions in the chat, guys. I love this question here. CJ2135 says, "Is Bell our second best threat outside of Bowers?"
McConkey, but yeah.
I was going to say, CJ, I think you've got a little recency bias there with Ladd being out. I will say Dylan, and this comparison is so.
CJ is right. He is.
I don't want to say lame, but
not over McConkey, Roddy.
Yep.
Bruh.
Yep.
I will not stand here for this slander of my beloved Ladd McConkey.
You asked there for this slander. It's true. How many return yards did the man have?
Yeah. You start pulling career stats? Is that what
do we need to can you put Ladd run power up the middle?
You probably could.
No.
I mean, he blocks those dudes.
No, you couldn't. I mean, the comparison I was saying is Deebo Samuel.
To me, he's a fantastic running back. I think he's as good as any of them. He's a great wide receiver. He's a great return man. Ladd McConkey, absolutely dangerous. All SEC, All American, will be drafted high. But I'm thinking that the ceiling in other words, you got a triple threat instead of a double threat. So to answer the question, is he the second best threat outside of Bowers? Yes, because he has more categories. So
I disagree.
Indy Clip, he's always here with us. He said, "Did Ladd throw a touchdown?" ?
Has he had the opportunity?
Question
mark. They don't trust him with it.
No.
So he's got 4 categories that he can go to. So he's dangerous.
Look, even just for us to be mentioning him in the same realm as a Ladd McConkey just shows his development, his ability to, get out there. There was 2 games. What was it? Ole Miss and Missouri. He didn't register anything except for 2 kick returns. No rushes, no receptions, nothing like that. Right, and he comes out and he shows out. Taco Leg says, "Hey, by Roddy's logic, Bell is the number 1 threat."
Yeah, I'll put it to you this way: I would not feel bad if he was getting the largest number of carries at running back. I would not feel bad if he was getting the most number of throws behind Brock Bowers, because I think Brock is just too much of a nightmare on the throwing game. I would not feel bad if he was. I don't know about returning punts, but returning kicks. If he's your primary kick returner, I think George is doing fine. I think he is a Percy Harvin-esque, multi-purpose tool that will only get tougher as the game goes on. You see that crazy catch he had? I mean, this guy is just a badass. And again, part of that is the fact that I was on him before anybody else. I'm like, this kid is special. He's got the pedigree. He knows what he's doing. He's a monster. And so maybe I'm a bit biased because I want the guy that I called out early on, want to see more and more of him. But again, last year, kid started as a true freshman in a pretty loaded wide receiver group. He's a real deal. Oh, and he blocks like he enjoys hurting people. So
might I remind you that Ladd McConkey returned punts at some point in his career too. His back just hasn't allowed that this year.
I don't know, just saying. They don't trust
him. And I think he's a better blocker than Bell, even though he's
Dawg 85 says Bell's going to be a star next year. He's going to shine against Bama. Then David Stone, not 30 seconds later, over on Facebook, says Bell's going to have a big game in the SEC championship game.
He needs to.
A lot of folks saying he's gonna shine.
I like this from Maharry. Hey, what did he not do? Kick a field goal? He really good.
Yeah,
unlike your Ladd McConkey.
Damn, just shitting on Ladd is crazy.
Hey, Ladd's one of my favorite.
Let's see here. I saw
it's such a discussion of the privileged, right? Of like, oh, Georgia has Ladd McConkey and Dylan Bell.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
don't have
I'm not going to take the Mercedes today. I'm taking the Rolls. You
you don't have Ladd and Bowers today. I'm sorry, you only have Dylan Bell and Kendall Milton. I'm so
5
sorry.
threats.
Yeah, like Indy said, Bell's dad was on the show too. So yeah, we do have
quintuple threats.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
When's Mr. McConkey been on here?
you need me to call Benji McConkey and get him on here? I'll do it.
Yeah, do it, please. Yeah, let's see what he can do.
They win the title.
No,
and
I don't want him calling me out for what I said.
Yeah, right.
Well, his name's Benji.
Let's not call him. No.
His name's Benji. I call him Dad McConkey.
Dad McConkey, bro, Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's how Dane gets fired.
Do I need to leave now? Like I can go to bed.
So my God.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, just let it go. Let it go. Looking forward to, next week. This game's gonna. I want to say this is the national championship game, just to send an SEC championship form. It's probably the two best teams.
You said that earlier. I've been swearing by that's the thing because again, I haven't seen any team that Georgia wouldn't be favored over. Again, and we had a lot of people talk about Oregon, and I appreciate all the people in the comment section saying, you guys are underrating Oregon. Oregon is really good. Yeah, and I know that Georgia has beaten Bo Nix, which sometimes only makes you feel like, he's due. But they are playing fantastic. They're playing much better than they were. The advantage that I see there, yes, Georgia killed them last year, but again, it was the first game for a first-time head coach. And he's going to run the system that he learned at Georgia. So Georgia kind of knew what he's going to do. And everything kind of went Georgia's way in that game. And they just blew Oregon out in that first game of the season. Hell, probably Georgia's best game in the regular season. They're better now. They have better players. They have better quarterback play. But I still think that the matchups, I like Georgia in that game. Again, you know what you're going to get. There won't be any surprises, but you've got better players. So if they both they both have familiar schemes, they both kind of know what the other one wants to do. But you're going to do it with Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey and Dylan Bell and Ra Thomas and hopefully Tate Ratledge back and your defense, and you got better players. So I think Georgia wins that against Oregon. They kill FSU right now. Michigan, I think they beat them. One thing I worry about Michigan is when they put it, when they have this 47 offensive linemen lined up to the right of the ball or to the left of the ball, and Georgia just does not have the defensive front. That's why I was talking earlier about, hey, let's talk about Georgia Tech. What's the most concerning thing about this game was that they were able to get push and they were able to run on you.
Yeah.
They were in chunk plays like 27 yards, 13 yards, 9 yards, 7 yards. They what was 180 something yards on offense
for Tech?
Yeah, how many yards did Tech have?
Let's see. I don't have.
Georgia ran for 262, which is impressive, which you expect, because that's one of the worst run defenses in the nation. But
while you look that up, Paul, I think the messed up thing to me is we can all sit here and agree that the national championship is next week because Georgia and Alabama are likely the two best teams in the country. However, that gives you no grace in this committee because if Georgia loses this game, like you need a lot of other stuff to happen to sneak in there as a 4 seed. And so this is pivotal. Like you don't get a gimme against Bama. Like Georgia can easily be left out with a loss. And it's critical for Georgia to get a win and not make that a discussion.
So 205 yards on the ground for Tech. They did count that, I guess, pass to Singleton as a pass. It was a 57-yard run, basically. So I would count it as a rush. 262 yards on the ground for Georgia Tech. Pretty good. For Georgia, we haven't really ran through the stats. 13 of 20, 175, 1-1 for Carson Beck. Antoine mentioned this is the first game for Beck under 250 yards, 175 for him. 262 on the ground for Georgia, 6.7 an attempt there with 3 touchdowns. Kendall Milton. We already got a donation for Kendall Milton to get all the helmet stickers this week.
That's my man.
So KC shout him out. He did that early. Kendall, a healthy Kendall Milton. You could tell after Dejan, had his unfortunate fumble that I don't want to say he was out of it because that's not Dejan. It was Milton's game after that. and Milton took over, and that's what teammates do. They've been around each other for a long time. When one guy kind of stumbles, the other one picks him up, and that's exactly what happened. Lovett finished with 68 reception yards, 5 receptions. After him, Bell 3 for 37, Dejan 2 for 31. Only 5 guys caught passes. One guy who we haven't talked about yet, and we've got some comments over here. I'll click on it right here from old Stick D's. He says, could Arian's performance be the, quote, tip of the iceberg of what he might do next week and after? Arian Smith, 2 receptions, guys, for 23 yards. Seems like he's getting a little bit more involved in the offense. Is that because McConkey and Bowers aren't out there? Possibly. What, probably.
100%.
And Robert.
Yeah. But, folks, this is, I want to say, like, who was it? It was James Cook for you, Roddy. That I feel like every week you wrote, James Cook, he's gonna break out. He's gonna break out. And then finally, I don't know, his senior year, you were right. And he broke out. That was it almost became a running joke. And now I feel like maybe Arian Smith is that now. Everybody's like, hey, what's up with Arian? What's going on with Arian? Where is Arian in the grand scheme of this all, Roddy?
I thought it was great that they threw him 2 easy passes.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is. Carson Beck's not a great deep ball thrower. They're not hitting guys in stride. They're not on target. Even the one to Lad McConkey was a week ago. He had to come back to it, and he makes a great move. It's hung up short. Maybe Carson could do it more. It's just we have not seen a lot of great throw deep.
He had a good one today to love it. That was I texted a buddy of mine. I said first 4 games, Beck's overthrowing Lovett right there. He's grown. That's really helped him. But continue. Sorry.
Yeah, but those haven't been great. Georgia hasn't called up a bunch of those. They don't hit them that often. Plus, if you miss it, now it's 2nd and 10. Or it's you can get behind the chains. It can be a wasted down. Georgia has a lot more effective plays to run than dropping a big bomb out there. The few times they have run it, I think there's at least definitely 1, maybe 2 where it's on the money. This is great. Or it's a little bit behind you, just a hair, and Arian missed him. And you're like, man, that's just got to be a confidence breaker. He knows he's fast. He knows he can catch. But if you're not throwing many of them to begin with, and then when you do throw them, that guy drops them. Well, hell, are you going to call it again? No. Every possession is so important that you go with your higher percentage plays. Higher percentage plays are throwing it to Brock Bowers, throwing it to Lad McConkey. So when those guys are healthy, throwing it to Rod Thomas. Those are more effective. So it's all about percentages. It's all about what's going to hit. You love the big bomb to Arian on a go route. Hey, run that 9 route, and let's see what happens. But if you miss it, now all of a sudden you're behind the sticks. So I think a couple easier routes. The handoff to him last week, get him just a little bit of confidence, show what you can do, and then the 2 easy passes to him today. Say, look, you're our guy when Lad McConkey's not here. So, and also, if you're a defense and you see him out there, like they never throw to this guy, they never throw to 11. He's just a distraction on a go route. He's going to run a fly. I'm not gonna shade towards him. We'll go man to man because he's just trying to run somebody off out of the coverage. So now all of a sudden it's like, well, shoot, they are throwing to him. So I think this could be a great spark for him, and I'd love to see it. I love the. To me, we haven't talked about Mike Bobo. I thought Mike Bobo's designed to play to Dejan Edwards with the throw to him on the sideline with Oscar Delp as a lead blocker. And he ran everybody else was just a vertical route to clear everybody out. I thought that was a genius play. And again, when you're trying to get guys back into the game, I thought that Dejan was, he felt bad about dropping that ball because they scored on it. And the camera pans over and he's going, that's my bad. That touchdown's on me. He wanted to go out there and do it, but he really couldn't get away from him because Kendall was playing great running off the right side. But they said, okay, we're gonna get him back in the game. We're gonna toss him one on the edge here, and he just converted. It was a long third down, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that happened. And then if we're gonna, there's one time that if we want to overreact, Bobo got in his head a little bit. They're driving the field with Kendall Milton. I mean, he's gashing them, 10 yards a carry. I think it's third quarter, maybe fourth. And they get down there and they go to 2 runs with Dejan up the middle. Doesn't work. And then they go to a screen pass to Mekhi Muse. And Arian Smith is out there as the lead blocker. His guy had already passed and almost intercepted that. It was a weird series of events once they got down to the red zone with that.
Don't assume that personnel is always Bobo. I mean, at the end of the day, personnel's Kirby, right? Of who's on the field for what plays. So,
it seemed weird. The drive was going so perfect, and then they throw Dejan in there. And no offense to Dejan, this guy saved your ass numerous times throughout the season. But it was clear as day that Milton had the hot hand.
Yeah, and they ran him. In the middle of third quarter, they pull him. And I know the exact series you're talking about. Georgia had to settle for a field goal, the only field goal they kicked.
Yep.
You're moving down, and then it's inside zone that didn't work.
I want to say inside zone again. Or halfback draw or something.
And they didn't hit. And then, again, this was that clunker game. You had Mekhi Muse. He fumbles the ball out of bounds on a punt. Muffs one. And luckily, it goes out of bounds. Very dangerous. And then the ball hits him in the hands. It looked to me that should be a catch. So, again, that's not a Mike Bobo issue. That's, hey, catch the damn ball and run with it, dude. I mean, we set up a special play for you. Now, maybe you're getting too cute there. But at the same time, if you run – inside zone, over and over and over again. Eventually, they're like, and at one point, I thought one of the hottest plays of the game was when they expected Georgia to run it. They ran both inside linebackers through both A gaps. They had 2 A gaps covered, 2 B gaps covered, and 2 C gaps covered. And I think Kendall Milton got to the outside, and might have been a little hole there on Xavier Truss, but he hit him for a big gasher. And again, then there's no backups, because those 2 inside linebackers came right up the gut. So I thought that was we can talk about the one the players missed, but by the design of that run, it should not have been successful. But Kendall Milton and the offensive line were able to take on all comers. They had 7-on-5, and they still got a big run out of it. So I thought that was great.
Did you mention already, Roddy, for Brock and – I think you did, but for those that are just tuning in with us, Brock and Ladd, are we expecting them back next week?
I am. I specifically asked Kirby about Brock on Monday because I knew that playing makes things hurt. And he was actually limping towards the end of the end of the game last week. So I knew that he was bugged. But no, we had already told people that Ra Thomas and Tate Ratledge and Ladd McConkey were not going to play this week. So that we were on there. Thought Brock would. Definitely expect those guys to play next week. So there's no way you're not going to be able to keep Brock out of it. You're not going to be able to keep Ladd McConkey out of it unless Ladd's back explodes or he's hit by a bus or something.
What about Ratledge?
Ra-Ra's questionable. His ankle, from what I understand, was pretty beat up. And Kirby said that the Tate Ratledge, knee bump. When we broke the news the night before on what was wrong with him, that there was no structural damage and that it was a contusion, I asked again, I'm like, well, how bad is a contusion? He's like, isn't that just a bruise? He's like, a contusion can be anywhere from a soft tissue bruise to a shattered patella. I'm like, oh. So he's like, it's a contusion. It hurts really bad. It's swollen. And he had a brace on. We told people because we found out he's wearing a huge brace on his knee. So this guy's not going to play against Tech. You don't need him. And to be fair, they ran off the right side between Truss and Mims repeatedly. Just Tech had no way to stop it. They started bringing him over there. And again, if they ever decide to fake one and let Carson keep it.
Yeah.
Well, Carson's got to go for the first down when he does it because he can't
that's not something that he normally misses. And again, the spot was bad there too. But normally when he's got to run like that, he takes it. It was an off night. Even your best players had an off night. Except Kendall.
But hey,
all the helmet stickers for Kendall. Yes.
You're a win away from another SEC championship and 3 wins away from your 3rd straight national championship. It's easy to overreact to little things against Georgia Tech, but the game really wasn't in doubt. And Georgia didn't get more hurt, but you need your dudes back for Bama.
So
what's
what
crazy?
was the final score?
Got 31-23.
Right. So you had 14 points off of turnovers for Georgia Tech. Without them, it's 3 field goals. Now, granted, one of those was they intercepted the ball in the end zone and they drove 80 yards on your ass. That's not a short field, but the first one was a short field. That's a quick. Here's a free 7 points. Because you fumble it on your first play, you give it to them on a short field, they punch it in as they should. The other one was more demonstrative. But again, you went from that catch in the end zone that should have been Dylan Bell's touchdown, except for the Cedric Van Pran thing, to an interception going the other way for a touchdown. It's a 14-point swing. Georgia, if you take away the 2 turnovers and some dumb penalties, Georgia not only wins this game, they cover handily. So I know I can be very pessimistic and very Munson-esque, but I'm just saying this was a rough game where you still came out victorious.
We got Jermaine King in here. KC says, when are y'all going to answer my question? KC, what's the question, my friend? We'll answer it. I haven't seen it.
Do we need to scroll back up? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm about to slide out, but I want to give a shout out to ASW Distillery. Fiddler Bourbon is what I've been drinking tonight. If you're in Atlanta, the tasting rooms, I think, are something you need to try yourself. Oh, you're empty. Yeah, I had an empty one too. I'm out of that one. I still have some
third empty one. So this is the last of it.
I thought you would be done with that hunker vodka by now. I need a second one of those. The way you were turning that up.
How do you know that's not the second one?
Oh,
no, that is the first one. I made one drink with it, and then I tried some of it straight up chilled. Tried it straight first, chilled, just to seem like, okay, let's get a clean vodka here. Let's see what goes on. And then I had some in a frou-frou drink that I will not describe on here.
I'm here for it, man. No judgment.
You won't judge them, but this comment section will.
Yeah, I don't want to get roasted by Gary and KC3 and Caraway and Carl.
Yeah.
Sweet Nasty.
The hunker vodka, every time it's purchased, a piece of that goes to Classic City Collective, which is Georgia's NIL arm. And if you're buying Tito's vodka, they gave $20 million to Texas last year. So you can kind of see the difference.
Yeah, if you're drinking Tito's, you are supporting Texas. That's all you got to remember.
You're pretty much putting up the horns every time you buy Tito's.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you take a sip, you're saying go Horns.
Yeah.
But if you're drinking Hunker, you are saying go Dogs.
Horns down.
That's all you got to remember. And
you can do those at once. Anywho, they're great folks at ASW Distillery. The other thing I'll remind people, since Paul's traveling, I'm filling in for him tomorrow on the All Things Georgia show, which means that Paul has subjected me to watching the Falcons. So I know what the hell's going on.
So Paul's going to be out again, huh?
See, Dane, we really could have kept that between us.
I got you back, Paul. Well, look, Roddy, it's not even that big of a deal because I go on at the end anyway to promote Film Don't Lie, and then we're going to do Film Don't Lie right after. So,
it does.
It's all
it works
good.
out great.
I'm going to call Paul one day and say you're doing Film Don't Lie, and he's going to
like Gary Gilbert. At least he works.
Jesus, we appreciate you, Dane.
I appreciate you
so much. See you, man.
See y'all.
We'll see Dane tomorrow night. He'll be on this channel for a while. Where's Casey's question? Oh, it's right here. Casey says, what's the difference between 2021 and 2023 if UGA loses next week?
The sheer number of other teams that are still in the running.
Correct.
So
1,000%.
Yeah, it's not. It's the exact same scenario. And Georgia got in, but also some other teams lost, and that was, hey, it wasn't a automatic shoe-in that Georgia was going to get in that in 2021. So,
yeah.
I
just think you win. Obviously, you don't have to worry about it. That's stupid. But
if you win, and again, I don't even know who I'm going to pick because you guys know I can be very pessimistic. People are like, do you have the little brother mentality against Alabama? I'm like, no, and it's not pessimism. It's just Alabama does the one thing that Georgia's not good at stopping. And you don't have the defensive front that could just cave things in, when you had Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt, those guys who would just end things up front. You don't have those guys. I thought Warren Brinson played a great game. I thought Christian Miller played well. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, got called for a stupid penalty that I don't think was a penalty. He tackled a guy, tossed him to the ground. They give him a 15 yards, extended the drive. I'm like, man, they should have been off the field there. Again, clunker, the little things that shouldn't go wrong. So, but again, those guys are not Jordan Davis. They're not Devontae Wyatt. They're not first-round draft picks. And you're going up against a decent offensive line, but a quarterback who can scramble. And let's say you trap him back there and you're like, hey, you're not going anywhere. The dude can keep scrambling, keep a play alive, and that's why I would be nervous about next week. But think about it if you do beat him. Now you're 13-0, you're in the playoffs. I don't care who you're going to face in the playoffs. You're probably going to definitely make it to the championship game, and you could lose one there. But you get healthier. Maybe Pop comes back in time for that one. I don't know, but it's going to be give Kirby Smart 15 practices for the playoffs. He's going to win. Yeah. So next week, think about you're going head-to-head with Alabama for certain recruits, throughout not 2024, but for 2025. Now you've got 2 wins over them. You're playing for your 3rd title. You've got 25 guys recruited or drafted the last 2 years. You're going to have some first-round draft picks in this one, maybe 3. 2 definitely, possibly 3, possibly 4. Who knows? This could be the changing of the tide. Yes, people like, well, Georgia's won the last 2, but the respect people still have for Alabama, you're already seeing people say, hey, we want Georgia instead of we want Alabama. If you win next week, man, this is, again, something that hasn't happened.
This is just such a – and it's – I don't want to hype the game up too much, but I think it is. It probably the biggest game for this three-peat to continue. Or for this three-peat to manifest.
Yeah, and it sucks that
because you could get knocked out here, and you could have one loss, and you know that Georgia, if they lost Alabama in this SEC championship game, they would face Alabama again in the national title game because they're going to beat whoever they're playing in the semis. They're not going to put Georgia up against Bama for ratings purposes. They're not going to do it, and they would face Alabama again for the three-peat. The problem is, though, if you lose this game, there's just too many teams right now. And that's what I was hoping with rivalry week could knock out some of these for Georgia.
And you needed these other teams to lose, and none of them.
You needed Florida to beat Florida State, right?
Even though count on Florida to do shit.
Right.
Okay?
But even though like you said, Louisville probably does beat Florida State, but you have to wait another week for that for them to get knocked out. Oregon, Washington, one of them is guaranteed a spot.
Michigan, come on, Washington State, you were winning that game,
right? Michigan's not losing to Iowa. Iowa cannot move the ball. I watched that game on the flight, and that was the nastiest game of football I've ever watched.
That's
in my
why
life.
Your kid was upset, man.
Yeah, it was. The kid wasn't the bad problem. It was getting through TSA.
Blaming your wife.
No, it wasn't the wife either. It was TSA putting us in the special line for the stroller, and never mind. But the problem is Michigan's getting in. There's 2 teams already. The winner of Oregon, Washington, Michigan. Now let's say you lose to Bama. Bama's getting in. There's 3. And then you better hope that Texas loses in the Big 12 championship, which is not going to happen. And then there's 4. Then you're out. And you're looking at it going, what if? What could have been? And that's why this game is so big.
Zero national sympathy because, you were the 2-time national champion and you went undefeated. But you didn't play anybody this year because that's the narrative. Even though a lot of the teams you played are ranked, they'd be like, well, if you deserved it, you should have beat Alabama in the SEC title game. It's a play-in game. They don't care that it's not fair. And honestly, they're a little sick of Georgia. No, does anybody else in the nation want Georgia to be in it again?
Probably not.
You've won 2.
Yeah.
Get out of the way. Let somebody else win.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that the teams that would get in are like, well, it's Alabama. You see them over and over again,
Yeah, but trust me, if they can put
Oh, I lost you, dude. Yeah, we can't hear you. You suck at this. Yeah, that's a good point. OSU lost to Michigan last year and got in, and Michigan did as well. That's another thing that the other conferences are mad about. 2 years prior, 2 SEC teams got in. Last year, 2 Big Ten teams got in. The other conferences are very hot about that. They're like, look, we got to get the ACC champion in there. That's garbage that they don't get in. So trying to get 2 SEC teams in again, the other conferences are going to lose their mind. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I say it doesn't work that way. It's not fair, but you're going to have to win to get in. Like I said, it goes from being the playoffs are semifinals, finals. Well, now they're quarterfinals. So you got 8 teams that legitimately have a shot at getting into this thing, and Georgia just happens to be playing in a quarterfinal. You're going to have to beat Bama.
I think I'm back.
Okay, you are. No, you're not. I see your mic's already out again. God damn, you suck at this. Taco Leg's got it right. Need money for a new mic. Got to stop bringing that speak and say, The cow says. Yeah, I think this is a good one here from CJ 2135. This is history book stuff if Kirby wins this game. And again, you're right. It changes the entire outlook of the series. And then all of a sudden now Kirby's he's 2-0 in his last games against Saban. And people will be writing obituaries about Saban and how he's lost it. Now it's not the same anymore.
I think I'm just going to have to hold this. I think the connection's loose.
Yeah, do a little karaoke there. A little Lookenbach, Texas. Oh, did you ever look up Lookenbach, Texas?
I did. It was a good song. It's a good song.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little ASMR, just like, Georgia's going to win the SEC championship. Time to go to bed. No, it should. I'm telling you, man, that game is
scary. They will be number 1 in the ranking this Tuesday.
Ooh, I don't know. Michigan just beat Ohio State. They were what, 3 or? I'm telling you, they might jump Michigan up there. Just letting you know. I don't know. James Caraway, Radi, if you need Paul to just go ahead and not work next Saturday, I'll host. I have great audio. James, you're never coming on the show again.
There you go, James. See, I do. I've got people. I'm calling my boy a damn beast media or the dog father. They'll take over the show in a heartbeat. They got the good stuff.
Want to hand out some bones, some helmet stickers?
Well, let's finish up some of these other questions real quick.
Saban retires if he loses, retires if he wins it all. I don't know, man.
Go out on top, dude. If he wins, I could see them beating the other teams.
If he loses, no, he's not leaving. If he wins, I could see him.
Here's the thing
him leaving
about retiring, because people ask all the time, when does he retire and do what?
Go sit on the lake with Miss Terry.
I'm sorry, that's gonna last for about 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure
he'll go into TV. No, he doesn't. I don't think he enjoys that either.
I don't know. He's getting paid a lot of money from Pat McAfee to show up on his show every Tuesday or Thursday, whenever it is.
But that's not his main job. He does that for what, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah. I don't know. I could see him retiring. But the thing is, he's going to do like Spurrier does and just show up at Florida or South Carolina, whichever one he's feeling. He'll just show up randomly and did Georgia lose, Dawg 85? What? I don't know where that came from.
Comment section have been a little down on the team.
Look, it was a tough game. You were expected to win by 25 points. You won by 8. I mean, stranger things have happened on rivalry weekend. Right? That's so tough to say. Rivalry.
Yeah, I've bombed it like 4 times on the show.
Rivalry weekend. We asked this earlier. Dave McMahon helped us out. 2009 was the last night game. That was so long ago. I mean, if you told me, hey, Paul, you got to put your mortgage on what time Georgia Tech's going to play, I would have told you noon. No questions asked. When this game came out at 7:30, I knew something weird was going to happen. I mean, and seeing that stadium full was kind of weird, right? I mean, it was full of Georgia fans, but just
I'm used to seeing it full of Georgia fans.
Right. But just seeing it full in general was kind of weird. I don't know. It was a little weird. Coach at A&M. Who? That's fun. Okay, since it's
that's
not
what he can do. He can go coach A&M. Yeah.
I
love this. He'll do a podcast with David Pollack.
Jeez. Yeah, y'all should do an entire POS ASMR style. That would either lose everybody that watches this show, or we would gain just like some weirdos that would follow this thing if we did some ASMR POS. I don't know if I'd be in on that, but I am in on this.
Hey, dude, check this. I just saw this. I'm so excited about it. They have our friends at the Rogue Shop have a Delta 8 THC
No shit.
cannabis advent calendar. One a day, baby. One a day.
And you don't know what you're getting until you open that thing up.
Yeah, folks been asking for that. Kids have advent calendars. I remember being so clueless when my dad's girlfriend said, "We're getting you guys advent calendars." What the hell is that? Dude, Dad's Palestinian. We had Christmas at our house, but that's because my grandparents made it happen. Dad was not a Christmas guy. He's like, what the hell is Christmas? Don't get me wrong. He loved it when he got used to it. He's like, this is great. I get dressing and we give presents. And he was very generous for what little we had. We were poor. But she came up. We didn't understand caroling or songs or any of the traditional stuff. And someone said, hey, this woman shows up. I got an advent calendar for you. I'm like, I don't know. Calendars are gay, man. Come on, this is stupid. And she's like, no, it's you open up the thing and there's a little chocolate inside. I'm like, where the hell's this been? I'm like 14 years old, never gotten chocolate, but hey, Rogue Shop. They've got delicious, organically produced treats in the Christmassy closed doors there at the Rogue Shop. So you get one a day on the mittens. That is awesome. So there's surprise edibles each day, and you're not sure what you're going to get. So check it out. It's $60. What a great Christmas gift! And today's the 26th. So if you order from the Rogue Shop and use promo code Bulldogs10, they get you 10% off. So you'd save $6, and you could have it delivered before December 1st. So whoever you're getting it for, even if it's for yourself, hit the Rogue Shop and get it knocked out. Let's go.
I can't. You got me. You tickled me. I can't, man. That was good. That was really good. No, but that is pretty sick. What is that? $60? So you get $6 off if you use Bulldogs 10. Covers your shipping. Yeah, I would like somebody to get that, because I guarantee there's going to be one day.
I think I'm gonna call them up and be like, hey, we're sponsored. I think we need to have one in the studio to demonstrate, to show,
There's going to be one day that Richard, owner of Rogue Shop, is going to put everybody on their ass. I don't know which one it is. Hopefully he picked like a Saturday. There's a day in there.
Somebody was saying take the Delta 9 first. They do have a Delta 9 calendar as well.
I think that one's even more scary than the Delta 8, bro.
Delta 8. Don't play with that.
Don't play with either one of them. You want to hand out some bones?
Sure.
I just don't
know. Gary said he's going to bed, the liar.
Just don't know where to go after the calendar comment, man. It just really tickled me. So first off, we got a donation for this. So if you want to start putting donations in, guys, now would be the great time to do so you can get your dog the helmet sticker that you want, aka get me a new microphone before next week. So because this one, the traveling has just warped this cord, and I'm going to have to get a new mic before next week. Guys, I'm going with Kendall Milton. KC already donated $9.99 for Kendall Milton. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, man. Trevor said, please help Paul so he can keep his job. Yeah, please send some money, guys, so I can get a new microphone. I'm no way. Did this just go out again?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, because it just said it did. All right. I was Kendall Milton's biggest critic, and I think his dad even called me out on Twitter about it one time. And I apologize.
He calls out everybody on Twitter, man. I spent the entire post
George's
first national championship arguing with him on Twitter.
He's a big guy, and I don't want to be on his bad side. Your son's doing really well, and your son is an integral part of this offense now, and he's getting hot at the right time. So shout out to Kendall. Get those dog bones for Kendall. Damn, KC. He gave the $10 for Milton on offense. He says nobody for defense. That's tough. That's tough. Defensively, Roddy. Oh, you know what? Christian Miller. He hasn't gotten a dog bone from us. I think he had a tackle for a loss or sack, one of the two.
Yep, he had a sack. Well, a sack for 5 yards.
He's a guy that played very early last year as a true freshman that didn't see the field after the first couple games. Now he's worked his way back into the rotation. Shout out to Christian Miller, Cedar Grove guy. And then Gary's been calling for it. He's been calling for the golden bone for the punter. Great all season. He does deserve the golden bone. We haven't given him enough bones, but he gets the golden bone. Hasn't allowed a return yet. There's my 3, Roddy. Who you got?
Okay. On defense, give me Tyke Smith.
Golden bone recipient.
Yeah, I mean 7 tackles, which would be tied for second. A tackle for loss. Dude played very physical. I was all over the place. I was impressed with him. You know, it was impressive to me. Smile Munden actually led the team in tackles. I would give him one mainly because he and CJ Allen can split one, a coverage bone. Both of those guys 30 yards downfield in coverage.
Yeah, they did.
Those were incredible plays. Those passes were not completed. The fact that CJ Allen and Smile Munden were running downfield, covering tight ends and running backs out of the backfield on wheel routes, genius. So I thought those were big. But my main bone for the game on defense goes to Warren Brinson. 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, playing on a bad calf. So
shout out to Warren.
And we give one to Terry Mingham Dawkins, but he got a 15-yard penalty.
Look, that shouldn't have been.
That was bullshit. It was bullshit.
He was a runner. He was not a quarterback at that point.
Yeah.
Hey, what about Marvin Jones Jr. with the strip sack?
I've forgotten about that. I did like the fact that I can't wait to see the snap count. See how many snaps he played because he seemed to be out there a lot. This is a guy who's really come on this year. And I like the idea because we talked about this before, seeing Michael Williams on one side and Marvin Jones Jr. on the other. We talked about those bookend guys when they came in. We're like, I want to see that. And
I also want to see how many snaps Michael played tonight. I don't know if he was out there
all the time.
Yeah, he wasn't out there a lot from just what I remember. Hey, shout out to Amari, man. Gave us a 20 spot. Says for Paul's mic. What? Yeah, what a guy.
Amari Carmichael, that guy's the best. Again, has been here since I first started doing this stuff, you know.
What a guy, man.
I remember just turning it on going, all right, what do y'all want to talk about? And Amari's like, hey, let's talk defense.
Ooh, CJ2135 give him $5. He says, great job all year. Bone for the O-line. Good call.
And again, that's without Tate Ratledge. Marius Mims went out and killed a man. I actually tweeted, I got to go back and find out what point he gets downfield and just open field blocks a guy onto his ass and pancakes him. There's a couple of traps that were great when they pulled on Powers and counter. They pulled on a counter. The 2 guys come around, they kill everybody, and Georgia gets dropped for a 3-yard loss because Dejan Edwards wasn't tight on their heels. I mean, you got those 2 guys pulling from the left side to the right. I think it was a YG counter guarding the. I don't know. I have to go back and look at it. So
a counter. I don't know. I was naming a rapper, the YG.
No, so the guard and the tight end, the Y tight end, they pull around the edge, and he's got to be right there with him. But he goes way outside and gets dropped for a loss. I'm like, come on, man. Get off. You're small. Hide off that guy's ass and just go up the field. But the offensive line, that is a great call, CJ.
I got to watch the game tonight with Nicole's dad. He played offensive line for Akron U back in the day, and so he watches offensive line play. He kept shouting out Ernest Green. He was like, Ernest Green he was like, who's that 77? And I told him the whole story about wearing Devin Willock's jersey. He thought that was amazing that Georgia's doing that, but he kept asking me, yo, 77, who is that kid? Where's he from? What's he looking like? And so shout out to him. Obviously, he did something if the old O-line man was shouting him out.
But here's the thing. Now, I am going to disagree a little bit, CJ, because you did have a couple holding calls.
Yeah, he did.
One of them was very ticky-tack on Dylan Fairchild. I was like, I don't know about that. The one in Xavier Truss was about to get in a fight all game long, but they were saying that Cedric Van Pran wasn't downfield when the ball was thrown. He was, dude. It's 3 yards and one in college and 1.5 in pros.
What's crazy though is that, like you said,
he ratted himself out.
The hold on Fairchild with a 1.5 second release, that was, like you said, a little tic-tacky.
Yeah, but when you put that arm out,
that's crazy though. That ball was like he literally stepped back and threw the ball.
Don't put that arm out that far. That's that was much. So
who'd you pick on the offense?
Dylan Bell. You know, the guy that's more of a quintuple threat than Ladd McConkey.
Damn. Yeah, this is
y'all know I love Ladd. I was one of the first people to talk about Ladd being I told people before that, I think he had that breakout in the G-Day game. I'm like, y'all, this kid's gonna be a monster. But let's go Dylan Bell. 1 rush, 29 yards, 6 catches for 37 yards, and then return for 39 yards on kickoff. We almost broke that one. That was
one of the dumber kickoffs I've seen in a while.
Yeah, 105 yards combined. So
that pooch kick that they did. I was talking to Nicole's dad about it. I was like, your kickoff team doesn't practice that often. So 2 guys get out of position, and you saw what happened. Dylan Bell almost took off on it. Doesn't make sense. And then also the I don't know, the onside kick there at the end felt like a little early for me. I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't got special teams yet, but I was going to be lastly on offense. I'm going to hit up Dominic Lovett. Shout out to Trent Smallwood, who in his PFF breakdown said this could be the game that Dominic Lovett just rips them. Dude had a team high 5 receptions for 68 yards and a touchdown. But they had no answer for Dominic Lovett. And Georgia went to him early, and they were successful. And then they started spreading it around. Granted, Dylan Bell had a few, but man, every time they went to Dominic, it was lights out. He killed Tech. But then I definitely one more. Well, I'll give one more on defense. CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson.
All right, you're done.
Raylan Wilson, first extended amount of plays that he's had. I thought that was great. You know, he had that huge tackle for, I don't know if tackle for loss, but he had a huge stop catching a guy out of the backfield. But CJ Allen on the pooch kick, on the onside kick. Think about it. You had a inside linebacker on the front line of your hands team.
Yeah, that was
kind of. Who does that? It's all supposed to be wide receivers up there, man, and running backs. And you're like, you know who's got good hands? Who's got good soft hands? CJ Allen. He's good. But again, lots of times they'll kick to a guy, and they have these gunners that just run right through him. So as the guy's catching, he just gets the shit hit out of him, and you knock the ball loose. You try running and doing that to CJ Allen, he's going to pack your brains into a little baggie and hand them to you. So great, great hands team, great special teams guy. So the fact that he's filled in multiple games for Dumas Johnson, I think that's a testament to him. And again, true freshman, running a very complicated defense, and the fact that you could have him and Raylan Wilson side by side in your rivalry game, lights out.
CK3 is asking for score predictions for next week. You want to wait till Friday for that?
Yeah, I think I can give him a lean maybe. I can see Georgia scoring on that defense.
Yeah.
I can see 4 touchdowns and maybe a field goal to 31. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You probably get 8-9 possessions. I can see them scoring once a quarter, But then how much will Alabama score on Georgia? I have no idea. And here's the thing, Georgia could shut them down. It could be a rout because they okay, here's the plan we have for Milroe. Here's how we're going to contain him. He's got to beat us with his arm. We don't think he can do that. I can see a pick. I can see them fooling him, but I just don't know that you can contain him. But if you do, man, they're going to have a long day. So I'll say this: the most Georgia thing that could happen is Caleb Downs gets a return for a touchdown, a punt return. Georgia hasn't given up a punt return all year, right? Caleb Downs returns one for a touchdown because you went in a head-to-head battle, one of the most knockdown, drag-out recruiting battles I've seen in a long time. Georgia and Alabama fighting for Caleb Downs. You lost that one. And then all of a sudden, Alabama's losing, and they freaking throw it to Jermaine Burton, and he scores and wins the game. Just saying, if you had to write a Georgia horror film, that's what it would be.
And then all the teams that you need to lose win, and you don't get into the playoff.
I'm just saying, we've been there before. So, well, I like CK3, 31-21 Dogs. That makes exactly what I said. Georgia scores 4 touchdowns and a field goal. And Alabama scores 3 touchdowns. I could definitely see that. I think CK3 might have it.
What else you got, boss?
No, that's all my helmet stickers. I given out a ton of them.
Yeah, you surely have. Well, guys, helmet stickers are normally the last thing here. We appreciate you guys sticking around with us. We still got 300 in here after 2 hours, man. We appreciate you so much. The show's growing leaps and bounds. You guys are the reason the show grows. So we appreciate you a ton. Next week, it's going to be Battle of the Ages. What time's that game start? 4 o'clock, yeah?
Yeah.
4 o'clock game. So we'll see you. And look at these. Radi's channel is inner months. And let's see. I got too big of a head. Does this fit? Yeah, it does. Ow. All right, guys. It's going to be a battle next week. Put your hard hats on.
Pack your lunch.
Pack your lunch. We're going to war, okay? And make sure you guys are ready. We'll see you after the game.
Yeah. I don't know that I will be able to join the post-game overreact show for some time. We're going to be meeting with one of Georgia's best sponsors, best NIL guys, best supporters.
You're not gonna be here with me?
I'm not sure what's going to happen after the game next week, so we'll see.
Well,
but if not, we got. I'm sure you'll have a good time with Dane.
This hat will be for me then. I'm going to war by myself next week, guys. Hopefully Georgia wins because I can't do this by myself. We appreciate it so much. We'll see you next week.
No, Jermaine, we're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
We do appreciate it, Jermaine.
Thanks, guys.
1 more hour. See you guys.